The Alpha's cold claim. A hush settled over the gray clearing like the moment before a storm breaks, heavy, expectant, almost painful in its silence. The last embers of dawn had been swallowed by a curtain of low clouds, leaving the neutral ground between the Moonclaw and Bloodfang territories, washed in lifeless light. Damp earth clung to boots and paws alike, but no one dared shift that weight. They were here for only one reason, and everyone, warrior, elder, child, understood the cost. At the center of the trampled sod stood Princess Ariana, back straight, chin lifted just high enough to show she hadn't been broken. Her ceremonial gown weighed on her slender frame, pale silver embroidered with her pack's lunar sigil, now little more than a farewell shroud to everything she had once called home. Beside her hovered Orion, her older brother and beta by default since Moonclaw's true beta had fallen in the last siege. His jaw was set, his shoulders tight. He wanted to growl, to bare fangs, to drag her there and then back across the border. But the treaty of the fallen moon forbade it. Peace, they called it. Ariana's wolf, Selene, whined against her ribs, but kept silent. Selene's instincts told her to lash out, to protect her human half. Yet hopelessness clogged the air thicker than mist. The war was lost. They would all obey the terms. There was no alternative if anyone wished to live. Across the clearing, a hard line of Bloodfang warriors came into view, stepping between shadows like phantoms. Steel-gray eyes, black leather, and scars painted a portrait of a pack bred for war. At their head strode Alpha Dominic. Even at a distance, Ariana felt him. No, not him, the bond, pulling at her like a hook in her chest. She caught the faintest hint of his scent. Smoke, cold rain on charred pine, something dark, and her lungs stuttered. Selene's ears perked, equal measures longing and fury flooding her veins. Ariana's hand tightened on the cold silver ring her mother had slipped into her palm that morning, a talisman that suddenly felt useless. Dominic did not glance at her. His gaze swept the assembly with satisfied disdain, as though confirming his enemies were truly beneath his notice. He radiated a chill that made the breeze feel warm by comparison. Varric, Dominic's wolf, prowled close beneath the man's skin. Even those without heightened senses could see the faint ripple of muscle, the watchful tension like a predator ready to strike. Varric saw Ariana. His golden eyes flared within Dominic's for a blink, then vanished behind a shudder of deliberate indifference. The officiating elder, a stooped wolf from a neutral outpost pack, cleared his throat. He recited the binding words with all the enthusiasm of a mourner reading a list of the dead, but convention required their presence. Ariana's heart pounded louder than his voice. When the elder gestured for Dominic to step forward, the Bloodfang Alpha moved like living granite. Heavy, implacable, unstoppable. He stopped a single pace before her, finally allowing his gaze to lock with hers. That gaze hit harder than any strike Ariana had received in training. On the other side of the bond, she felt him too. Iron-strong will, jagged edges where grief had fused with rage. A sea of winter cold kept behind a dam he refused to let crack. Alpha Dominic of Bloodfang, the elder intoned, do you accept Princess Ariana of Moonclaw as your mate, according to the treaty? Dominic's shoulders rose and fell in one steady breath like he'd been asked whether snow was white. I accept. His voice carried sharp as frost over glass. No warmth, no ceremony, just fact. The elder inclined his head to Ariana. Princess Ariana of Moonclaw, do you accept Alpha Dominic of Bloodfang? Her tongue felt glued to the roof of her mouth, but she forced herself to speak. I accept. The words left her lips in a calm whisper, steadier than the trembling inside her gut. Orion exhaled as though stabbed. Selene bristled, but Ariana stood unmoving. Tradition called for an exchange of vows, yet Dominic barely touched her hand before sliding a plain iron band onto her finger, the same material used to shackle rogues. Not gold, not silver, but iron, practical, and cold. The elder announced the union had been witnessed, then stepped back as though he feared the temperature might drop further. Dominic leaned in. Ariana expected a polite kiss on her cheek. She did not expect the words that brushed her ear, low enough only she and possibly her brother heard. "You're just the leash I won," Dominic murmured. "Don't mistake this for anything more." Her skin chilled beneath the whispered insult. Pain flared in Celine, quick and hot. For an instant, Ariana wanted to snarl, to tear at him with claws she rarely used. She didn't. She pressed her lips together, trapping her answer behind her teeth. Dominic drew back, expression unreadable. Then he placed an emotionless kiss against her cheek. The barest press of lips to skin, already gone before her mind registered the contact. Moonclaw wolves bowed heads in grief. Bloodfang wolves exchanged smirks. Someone clapped once, sarcastic, until Dominic's sharpened gaze silenced even that. The ceremony dissolved. Elders shuffled aside. Warriors reclaimed their lines. Ariana reached for Orion. He clasped her forearm, grief and helpless fury swirling in his eyes. "Stay strong," he whispered. "We will see each other again." "If the treaty is honored," she breathed back. She didn't add that treaties rarely protected the defeated for long. Orion's gaze flicked past her shoulder to Dominic, who watched their parting with glacial composure. Orion's wolf dared a rumbling growl, rumbling through clenched muscles. Dominic gave nothing away. Ariana squeezed her brother's hand once more before Bloodfang guards formed around her like bars of a cage. Orion stepped back to the Moonclaw side. The line between packs was redrawn in mud, and Ariana crossed it alone. The journey to Bloodfang territory took the better part of a day, though Ariana remembered little of the ride except damp air and silence. She sat in a curtained carriage, a carriage she realized Dominic had provided more for his warrior's convenience than for her comfort. 2 guards rode ahead, 2 behind. Through the cloth she could smell pine and wet stone, hear distant raven calls that sounded like omens. Whenever the carriage jolted over roots, iron chains beneath her seat rattled softly. She stared at those lengths of iron tucked beneath the benches. For runaway prisoners? Her chest tightened. Celine snarled. "Try them and see what happens," Ariana thought bitterly, though fear undercut the bravado. Celine sighed, nudging against Ariana's spirit like a comforting shoulder. "Even if we ran, the bond would drag us back." "We'll endure," Selene answered, voice smoky and warm inside her mind. "We have done harder things." "Have we?" Ariana frowned at her own memory. The quiet nights learning herbal mixtures, the laughter at festivals, the fear when war drums sounded. None of it felt harder than this cold surrender. Yet Selene's faith was all she had left. Tree trunks blurred past. Each mile that sank behind the wheels felt like an arm's length cut from her former life. The carriage slowed only when evening shadows began to crawl long across the forest floor. Ariana parted the curtain to peer out and caught her breath. The Bloodfang stronghold rose ahead, carved directly from the mountainside, a fortress of black stone, high ramparts, and watchtowers that speared the low clouds. Torches spotted the battlements, the flames giving the rock a hungry red glow. A wolf's howl cut through the air, deep and reverent, answered by another from close behind. Ariana's skin prickled. Selene pressed forward in her mind, ears focused. The carriage crossed under the arched gate, its iron portcullis raised like fangs. Inside, the courtyard bustled with activity. Wolves in human form hauled crates of supplies. Pups chased one another until mothers called them away, eyeing Ariana with open suspicion. The carriage halted beside the main steps leading into the keep. The door opened, and a guard extended a hand. Ariana ignored it, stepping down on her own. Her slippers met damp flagstone, sending a chill up her spine. Dominic awaited her at the foot of the stairs. He had traveled on horseback ahead of them, apparently. Not a speck of dust marred his black coat. His expression told her nothing. When she approached, he merely nodded to the stone steps. She ascended, aware of every eye tracking her progress. Celine's heart thudded to the rhythm of so many others beating around them, some curious, some venomous. Inside, the keep was as imposing as its exterior. Long corridors of torchlit basalt, ceilings vaulted like cathedrals, windows narrow slits that let in little light. The hall's scent was iron-rich, as though the stone itself remembered blood. Ariana's escort paused outside a set of imposing oak doors. Dominic reached past her and pushed them open. The room beyond was large enough to be a ballroom, though sparse, with thick rugs muffling footsteps, a fireplace tall as a watchtower, and windows overlooking the forest below. Sumptuous, yet empty, stripped of warmth. A four-poster bed draped in deep crimson occupied the center. Ariana's breath hitched at its size and implication, but Dominic's voice cut the thought short. "These rooms are yours." He lingered by the doorway, hands clasped behind his back. "They are within the inner ring. You will find them comfortable, though your freedom ends at the walls. You do not leave this wing without my express permission. You do not address my warriors unless spoken to. You will attend dinners when summoned, and you will remain silent." He paused, studying her like a chess piece on the board he'd already won. "Do you understand?" "Yes," she said. Calm even. Not broken. She refused to be. Dominic's jaw tightened a fraction, as if disappointed she hadn't protested. "You may have attendants," he went on, "but understand they answer to me, not you." He motioned toward a wide-eyed maid standing in the hall. "I assume your journey was tiring. You may freshen up." He turned to leave, then halted. Without facing her, he added, "Do not mistake the comfort of these rooms for kindness. You are here as a symbol, nothing more." Ariana lifted her chin. Comfort means little coming from a man who advertises his cruelty at every step. He half-turned, eyes narrowing slightly. "Speak carefully, Moonclaw." "I am speaking carefully, Bloodfang." The title tasted like ash, but she forced boldness into her tone. "You promised peace, yet chain me with rules. My people surrendered to spare further bloodshed. Will you honor that sacrifice, or will you hide behind walls and call it strength?" For a heartbeat, Dominic's eyes lost their arctic sheen, shone raw and livid, then slammed shut again. "Enjoy your evening, Princess." He left without another word, his footfalls echoing down the hall until the oak doors boomed shut behind him. Ariana exhaled the breath she'd been holding. The maid closed the door timidly. "My lady," she whispered. "Would you like a bath drawn?" Ariana forced a small smile. "What is your name?" The maid swallowed. "Leona, my lady." Her gaze darted toward the door. "Thank you, Leona. A bath would be lovely." Ariana's shoulders slumped once the maid scurried toward the adjoining chamber. She crossed to the hearth, though no fire had yet been lit. Celine prowled restlessly inside her head. "He wants us caged," Selene growled. "Yes, and he thinks that will break us." A scrape at the balcony doors drew Ariana's focus. She stepped onto the cold stone terrace. From here, she saw the whole valley cloaked in mist, the fortress walls snaking like a dark serpent across the hillside. Farther still, moonlight kissed the distant ridge marking Moonclaw land. Her heart ached. The bond tugged gently, insistent toward the keep's west wing, Dominic's direction. The ache burned hot, then cooled to an ember of embarrassment. She hugged herself, refusing its call. Below, torches flickered as patrols shifted position. Their coats gleamed when moonlight touched them, wolves in half-form to detect intruders. Bloodfang's efficiency chilled her as much as Dominic's indifference. She would need caution, but caution could not become silence. Ariana breathed in the damp air and let her tears fall silently. Only Selena felt them. The bath warmed her bones but emptied her spirit a little more. She climbed into the massive bed long before she would have in Moonclaw, pulling a velvet blanket to her chest. Sleep did not come. Each time heavy eyelids sank, the bond clawed its way up her spine. Heat, scent, a phantom weight pressing into the mattress behind her though no one was there. She rolled onto her back, staring at the canopy. Selene twisted restlessly. He's close, Selene whispered. Don't think about him, Ariana begged. Selene whined, a lonely sound. He's thinking about us. Ariana clenched her teeth, emotions twisting between yearning and resentment. She hated the idea that he might be able to sense her, hated more that part of her longed for it. The blankets stifled. She kicked them away, slid from the bed and padded barefoot to the door. Glancing down both directions, she saw no one. Torches sputtered along the corridor. Her heartbeat quickened. She pressed a palm to the doorframe. The tug pointed right, then down, toward the far west hall. Dominic's quarters. She almost moved. Instead, she slammed her palm against the wood. Silent. On the other side of the fortress, Dominic sat alone at a long table, in a study walled with animal hides. A decanter of water glistened untouched near his elbow. He stared at a map of new borders lying open before him. His eyes lifted when a phantom scent slipped under the door. Wildflowers after rain, the metallic tang of fresh snow, and something calm that cut through him like sunlight through cracks in a roof. Ariana. Varric swelled beneath Dominic's skin, claws scraping metaphorically at bone. Go to her, Varric urged, voice guttural and raw. No, she needs us. She's a reminder of weakness. Varric snarled. She's our mate. Dominic stood so quickly the chair groaned. He stalked to the door, wrestled the handle. Cold hallway air slid over his heated skin. He followed that scent for 2 steps before forcing himself to stop. Knuckles whitened on the doorframe. Every heartbeat brought a surge of desire and fury. Finally, he slammed the door and returned to the map, drawing a shaking breath. Across the keep, Ariana pressed her ear to the cool doorwood, suddenly certain she had heard steps that stopped, as if someone pacing outside. When nothing came, she retreated to bed. The rest of the night crawled past in merciless increments. Moonlight dragged across the ceiling and fell away. Dawn bled pale through the narrow windows. By morning, Ariana's knees wobbled with fatigue, but she dressed in a modest pale blue gown, braided her dark hair, and stepped into the corridor. 2 stoic guards trailed behind her without a word. She crossed tapestried halls, down a staircase to a set of heavy doors that opened onto a gravel courtyard ringed by stone walls. Crisp air tasted of pine sap and early sunlight. A small patch of garden peeked from one corner, spared only because rock walls shielded it from winter winds. Ariana's lungs expanded. She took 2 steps toward the gate leading into the wider grounds. A guard blocked her path. Apologies, my lady, you are not permitted beyond the inner ring. The garden is beyond this ring? Ariana asked softly. Yes, my lady. I wish to feel sunlight. I have orders. The guard's eyes flicked behind her as if expecting Dominic to emerge at any moment. Ariana's jaw tightened. Then fetch your alpha. I wish to hear the refusal from his own lips. Her voice rang across the quiet courtyard. Several blood-fang warriors paused mid-task. One jogged toward the hall. Inside the main atrium, Dominic descended the stairwell just as the warrior arrived, breathless. The warrior bowed, murmured a message. Dominic's expression hardened. Without wiping the blood on his jaw, Ariana realized belatedly he'd come straight from a border patrol, half-shifted and splattered with rogue blood. He strode through the doors and into the courtyard. The crowd parted. Ariana turned at the sound of boots crunching gravel. She froze at the sight. Dominic's chest was bare beneath an open coat, claw marks healing along his ribs. Blood dried dark down his forearm. His eyes glowed faintly amber. Leaving the inner ring already? Dominic's voice held exhaustion she wasn't sure the others heard. Did you find my accommodations insufficient after one night? I only wanted to step outside, Ariana answered, chin high. The sun cannot hurt your walls. Walls cannot trust so easily. He halted an arm's length from her. Mud crusted the hems of his trousers, but his gaze burned clean and sharp. Do not test me, princess. If I'm your mate, why do you treat me like a prisoner? The words escaped harsher than intended, but she let them stand. Her voice trembled only at the end, betraying the crack inside. Dominic's eyes flickered, ancient pain surfacing like a serpent. He seized her chin, forcing her to look up. His fingers pressed just shy of bruising. Because the moonclaw bitch in my bed reminds me of everything I had to kill to win this war. The courtyard went deathly silent. Wind gusted through torch brackets, flames whipping. Ariana's vision blurred, but she did not look away. Selene whimpered inside, claws scraping at the cage of her ribs. Dominic released her abruptly, turning before anyone could read his face. Bloodfang warriors shifted, uncertain. Dominic crossed the courtyard, giving curt orders to the nearest guard. "Ensure she returns to her chambers," he snapped, "and double the watch on her door." Varric rumbled inside his head, the sound distressed rather than furious. Dominic shoved the feeling deep. He vanished into the keep, leaving Ariana standing beneath a sky that suddenly felt too large. Guards escorted her back without a word. Behind heavy doors, Ariana sank against the wall, the stone's chill cutting through her gown. Tears she'd sworn not to shed tracked down her cheeks. She pressed a hand to her chest. The bond pulsed like a wound. "Run," Selene whispered. "How?" Ariana asked miserably. "Every step I take away will drag me back. Then bear the pain and become stronger. We survive. We find a way. We always do." In the West Wing, Dominic stripped off the bloodied coat, tossed it onto a chair, and braced his hands against the window ledge. Beyond the fortress edge, the forest rustled. He inhaled to calm Varric, but Ariana's scent haunted him still, hiding in the seams of his skin. He pressed his forehead to cool glass. Varric growled softly. "We hurt her," the wolf accused. "We kept her alive," Dominic countered. "Alive isn't living." Dominic closed his eyes. The words echoed longer than they should have. Outside, wolves howled to signal shift change. Dawn's chill seeped over the mountains, but Dominic barely noticed. He was too busy wrestling a storm he could not allow to break. And so the day passed into dusk, each hour measured by two hearts that beat out of sync. Tethered by a bond, neither could escape. When the moon rose once more, Ariana stood at her window, watching silver light pool over the courtyard, where she had almost breathed freedom. Across stone and silence, Dominic paced, haunted by a memory of dark hair catching torchlight and eyes that had refused to break. He lay down on his bed, but did not sleep. Neither did she. The bond pulled. They resisted. And the night refused to end. The gray dawn had barely peeled back the night when Ariana rose from the edge of an uneasy sleep. Her eyelids felt weighted with sand, but her mind refused rest. She dressed herself in a soft cream tunic and slate blue cloak, and braided her hair into a single rope down her back, hoping the simple style would keep it out of her way. Selene stretched within, limbs shaking off exhaustion. "We need clarity," Ariana told her wolf. "And sunlight," Selene agreed. Outside her doors, two guards waited, the same dour pair who had escorted her back after yesterday's confrontation. One, a lanky male with sandy hair, bowed stiffly. "Alpha's orders, my lady. We escort you wherever you go." "Then follow," she said, turning down the hall without waiting for permission. Iron discipline kept them silent as they trailed her past torchlit corridors and echoing archways into the keep's heart. She had memorized much of the route during last night's pacing. On the ground level, a narrow passageway twisted toward the kitchen wing. Warm aromas floated out. Baking bread, roasting meat, and Ariana's stomach rumbled. She had hardly eaten yesterday. She paused just inside the archway. Cooks bustled, stirring pots and shouting measurements, but conversation died the instant they noticed her. Several lowered their eyes while others stared outright. One burly cook tore a loaf in half and handed it to a thin, scullery girl, murmuring for her to take it to the pups in training. The girl hurried past Ariana, nearly tripping. Selene huffed. "Fear taints everything here." Ariana managed a gentle smile for the girl, who blushed and darted down a side hall. A middle-aged woman with streaked gray hair at the braid's edge approached. She wore an apron dusted in flour and smelled of rosemary and wood smoke. Can I help you, my lady? Though polite, her tone carried wariness, as if expecting Ariana to demand something unreasonable. I only want bread, Ariana said, and perhaps cheese. Something simple. She kept her voice quiet, hoping to ease the woman's suspicion. I don't wish to interfere. The cook blinked. Very well. She turned, snagged a warm loaf and a small wedge from a nearby block, wrapped them in linen, and pressed the bundle into Ariana's hands. The cheese is young but good. Thank you. Ariana tucked the food into her cloak pocket. What's your name? Mara, the woman replied after a beat as though unused to the question. Ariana nodded. I'm in your debt, Mara. The cook's brows lifted. Debt. We serve the pack. And you are Luna. She said the last word softly, uncertain, as if it might burn. Ariana's chest tightened. I'm honored, she whispered and backed away. The guards followed, the taller one muttering under his breath. She could almost feel Dominic's rules coiling around her like vines. No mingling, no illusions of power. Yet she would not become a ghost inside these walls. If she could not leave them, she would learn them instead. On an impulse, Ariana veered into another corridor. Several doorways later, she stepped onto a small interior balcony overlooking a training yard. Young warriors in half-shift drilled against each other, claws out, muscles flexing. In one corner, two gray-furred wolves tussled over a leather tug toy while an older warrior barked instructions. Ariana chewed the bread, watching. Selene leaned forward, intrigued. Below, a russet-furred pup yelped as a larger trainee knocked him sideways. The pup limped off to the edge of the yard. Ariana's feet moved before caution could protest. She descended the stairwell and emerged into crisp air. The guards hustled behind, one hissing warnings, but she walked to the pup, kneeling on the packed soil. May I? She asked softly. The pup's ears flattened, but he didn't shy away. She ran gentle fingers over his foreleg. A shallow cut bled where a claw had snagged. She tore linen from her bread wrap and bound the wound, humming an old moonclaw lullaby. The pup's eyes drooped. Several trainees paused, confusion etched across their faces. A gruff voice broke the quiet. Stand down. The older warrior strode over, crossing thick arms. Gray peppered his beard, and a long scar split one brow. He eyed Ariana with cool scrutiny. Who granted you leave to be here? No one, she answered, tying the linen knot. The pup was hurt. The warrior snorted. Scratches build strength, and infection ends it. She finished binding and rose. Let him rest. The warrior looked poised to argue, but a new scent sliced through the yard. Pine and storm clouds. Dominic. Ariana's pulse skipped. She turned as he stepped through the gate, Beta Torin at his side. Dominic's gaze flicked from the pup to the linen to her face. Irritation flared in those gray eyes. What are you doing outside your wing? Dominic's voice carried steel. Trainees quickly lined the yard's edges. The sun felt kind today, Ariana said, forcing calm. And kindness breeds loyalty. She gestured to the pup. A trivial wound left untreated teaches nothing but neglect. Dominic's jaw ticked. Torin cleared his throat. Alpha, training resumes. Silence. Dominic stalked closer. Ariana braced, meeting his eyes. The bond leapt between them, as it always did. Hot wire over tender skin. But she refused to show weakness. Dominic inhaled once, nostrils flaring as though her scent offended. Return to your rooms. She had expected as much, yet some stubborn spark in her chest refused the immediate retreat. I will, she said, but first allow him a healer's glance. I'm versed in herbs, moonflower, fire moss salve. Bloodfang healers will tend our own. Then send for one. Ariana glanced at the pup whose tail sagged between shaking legs. Please. Something in her voice, a note of gentle command, caused Dominic's eyes to darken. For a breath she thought he might actually relent. Instead, he pivoted. Torin, fetch healer Mara. The beta bolted toward the keep. Dominic addressed Ariana in a low growl. You will not undermine training again. I'll remember, she answered steadily. Thank you. Dominic scowled as if gratitude were more offensive than defiance. He motioned to 2 warriors by the gate. Escort her back. Celine grumbled inside. He pretends mercy is weakness. Ariana retreated with the guards. Behind her, the yard resumed drills, but she sensed Dominic's gaze on her shoulders all the way up the stairs. Back in her room, she paced until Leona arrived with fresh linens. The maid kept her eyes down. Ariana thanked her anyway, startling Leona into a small smile before she fled. Exhaustion finally forced Ariana into a chair by the window. She tore another piece of bread, staring at the courtyard far below. Guards marched their patrol routes in silent loops. Why does he fight so hard, she asked Celine. Fear, her wolf answered. He's afraid love will make him weak. Love never weakened anyone. Ariana rested her forehead against the glass. The afternoon sun cast golden light across the balcony, but inside she felt only chill. When evening shadows lengthened, a soft knock sounded. Ariana's heart leapt. Dominic? But it was Leona again, carrying folded garments. Dinner is served in the hall, she murmured. The Alpha requests your presence. Requests. Commanded, more likely. Ariana wiped her cheeks. Unaware tears had escaped. She straightened. Thank you, Leona. I will come. The grand banquet hall was a cavern of stone arches and banners bearing the Red Fang sigil. Long tables lined the room, but only one at the center held place settings, Dominic's high table. Torin stood near, speaking quietly with Gamma Lisa, a tall woman with copper hair and calculating eyes. Conversation hushed as Ariana entered on the guard's heels. She walked the length to the high table, every footstep echoing in her bones. Dominic rose behind his chair, as custom required. He inclined his head a fraction, not courtesy, simply acknowledgement of her rank, then gestured to the seat at his left. She sat, spine straight. Platters arrived, roast venison, root vegetables, thick stew. Yet the tension between them turned even the richest food tasteless. Dominic cut his meat with precise strokes. Ariana sipped water, hands steady but cold. Torin carried most of the conversation, discussing border patrol rotations and rogue sightings. Dominic answered in clipped phrases. Ariana listened, noting maps in her mind. Lisa eyed Ariana appraisingly, perhaps weighing political value versus threat. Halfway through the meal, a courier strode in, bowed, and whispered to Dominic. The Alpha stiffened. His gaze slid to Ariana, unreadable. He dismissed the courier and rose. Torin, with me. To Ariana, he said nothing. The hall doors boomed shut behind him. Ariana stared at the abandoned plate. Lisa cleared her throat. The Alpha keeps a tight schedule, she noted. Border tension hasn't eased since the treaty. Peace only exists if both sides choose it, Ariana said softly. The Gamma's lips twisted, not unkindly but skeptically. Bloodfang chooses survival. Sometimes peace is a luxury others can't afford. The words stung, yet Ariana filed them away. When Lisa excused herself, Ariana followed the guards back through corridors lit by guttering torches. Her stomach churned. Selene paced. Something was wrong. In Dominic's war room, the courier unfurled a map on the table, pointing to a ridge near the northern border. Scouts spotted a rogue band crossing at dusk, 5 at least armed. Dominic's fingers drummed the tabletop. Send second patrol. Double sentries at Ridgewatch. No one crosses. Torin nodded, issuing orders to a runner. Dominic's mind flickered to Ariana. An irrational urge surged. Bring her someplace secure. He cursed under his breath. Varric pressed, tail lashing. Mate safe? Dominic shoved the instinct away. She's inside the inner ring. Fortress is secure. Still, he couldn't shake unease. Ariana's sense of unease ripened into dread by the time she reached her chambers. The guard stood outside. She entered, bolted the door, and leaned against it. Distant howls rose beyond the walls, a patrol changing shift, or a warning. She pressed palms to her ears. Celine whined. Later, torchlight beyond her window flickered strangely, as if wind struggled to snuff it out. She opened the balcony doors. Cold air gusted in, scattering candle flames. On the battlements, wolves moved purposefully, cross-patterning like streams of black water. Somewhere below, a horn sounded, 3 sharp notes. Alarm. Ariana's pulse spiked. Celine snapped to attention. Something's wrong at the border. We're trapped. Ariana gripped the railing. Below her terrace, courtyard gates clanged shut. Warriors raced, claws sparking on stone as they half-shifted mid-stride. She couldn't see Dominic, but she felt him. An electric jolt down the bond. Anger sharpened into lethal focus. Stay here, Celine urged. Ariana forced herself from the balcony. In her wardrobe, she found a thick cloak and boots. She donned them swiftly. She could do nothing from this room. She stepped into the corridor. The guards startled, forming a barrier. Return inside, one ordered. What happens? Rogues at the northern ridge. The Alpha is dealing with it. Then you need every healer on standby. I can treat wounds. Orders are orders. The guard shifted uncomfortably. We cannot allow you beyond the wing. She lowered her voice. People may die if no one staunches bleeding. Show me where the infirmary is, and I will stay there. If the Alpha objects, he can deal with me himself once he's finished saving his warriors. The guard hesitated, caught between fear of Dominic and pragmatic logic. Finally, he motioned to the hallway. Stay close. They led her down spiraling stairs into the bowels of the fortress. The infirmary was a long chamber lined with bunks and shelves of herbs. A single healer, an elderly woman with white braids, sorted bandages. She looked up as Ariana entered, surprise flickering. Name's Myra, she said roughly. Who are you? Ariana. She set about washing her hands in a basin. I know wound cleaning techniques and basic stitching. Myra's sharp gaze assessed her. You get squeamish? Never. Good, they'll start dragging bodies in soon enough. The healer shoved a basket of supplies her way. Sort these by tincture strength. Ariana worked, grateful for purpose. Minutes later, 2 warriors carried in a limping half-shift wolf, blood soaking his flank. Ariana helped Myra cut away ruined fabric, applied fire moss salve, and bound the wound. She whispered soothing encouragement, voice steady even when claws raked the table in pain. More wounded arrived, 3, then 6. The air filled with the copper tang of blood and the sharp bite of antiseptic herbs. Ariana focused on each patient's eyes, each grateful nod, letting the work drown her fear. Dominic's presence shivered down the bond intermittently, bursts of adrenaline and fury. She imagined him in wolf form, Varric tearing through shadow and snow, fending off rogues who threatened his territory. Each sensation jolted her concentration for a heartbeat before she forced it away. She couldn't afford distraction. Hours dripped by like resin. Eventually the surge slowed. Myra and Ariana slumped against a supply shelf, breathing hard. Myra wiped her brow. Didn't expect Moonclaw royalty to have steady hands. Pain doesn't care about birth, Ariana replied. She glanced at the door. No one else? Myra shrugged. If they're still out there, they're beyond our reach tonight. Her voice carried years of hardened acceptance. Ariana's stomach twisted. Celine curled inside, exhausted but proud. Dominic's bond thread tugged again, this time dull with fatigue. He was alive. She sent silent gratitude across the link, unsure if he'd feel it. A guard entered, face grim. Myra, the Alpha returns, some wounded en route. Ariana helped ready fresh linens. The door swung wide. Dominic strode in, half-shifted, his wolf ears still visible, dark fur dusted by snow. Blood streaked his arm, not his own. His eyes locked onto Ariana first, shock flitting across them. Then he lifted a warrior onto a bunk, barking orders. Ariana moved to assist. Dominic caught her wrist mid-reach. "You shouldn't be here," he hissed, voice rough from growling. "I saved lives." She pulled free. "Let me finish." He held her gaze a long moment. Varek's shadow flickered behind his eyes, conflicted, wanting. Finally, he stepped back. "Very well." They worked side by side in tense silence. She cleaned a gash on his forearm without comment. Heat sparked at every brush of her fingers. When the last patient was stable, Myra dismissed her with a nod of respect. Ariana washed sticky blood from her hands, then turned toward the corridor. Dominic followed. They climbed 2 flights, neither speaking. At her door, she paused. He still towered close, breathing heavy. For the first time, she noticed a faint tremor in his fingers. Exhaustion, or something deeper? "Why risk yourself?" he asked quietly. Not accusation, genuine curiosity. "Because I hate seeing pain," she answered. "Because your warriors defend my life too now." He opened his mouth, closed it. "Rest, the fortress stands." "So do I." She offered a tired but honest smile. Dominic stared another heartbeat, then spun away down the hall. She entered her room, closed the door gently, and stood in the silence. The moon was nearly overhead, casting silver stripes across the rug. Celine whispered, "He saw you." "He always sees me," Ariana replied. Yet tonight it felt different. Still cold, still harsh, but not indifferent. She crawled into bed. Sleep claimed her swiftly, fragments of forest and silver fur drifting through dreams. Far above, Dominic stood at a tower window. Snow had begun to fall, soft flakes catching torchlight. Varek huffed, pacing. "She fought for our pack," the wolf said. "She fought for life," Dominic countered. "And life is ours to guard. Admit it. You felt pride." Dominic pressed fingers to his temple. Pride and fear. He feared the bond, feared weakness. But tonight, watching Ariana bend over his warriors without hesitation, something inside him shifted an inch. "Do not falter," he warned himself. Varek settled on his haunches, tail curling around massive paws. "She makes us stronger." Dominic closed his eyes, letting the snow whisper against the tower stones. Below, the fortress settled into uneasy slumber. Ariana's heartbeat echoed along the bond, steady and warm, lulling him in spite of himself. For the first time in years, Dominic allowed his eyelids to fall without forcing them. Sleep came, light, guarded, but real. Soft light seeped through the narrow windows, painting Ariana's ceiling in washed gold. She drifted awake slowly, unsure at first where she was. Then the scent of ash stone walls and the muted hum of a foreign fortress snapped memory into place. Her body ached from hours bent over wounded wolves, and dried blood rimmed her nails despite scrubbing. Celine stirred, tail flicking against Ariana's spirit. "We lived through the first night," the wolf said, a note of wonder beneath exhaustion. Ariana rolled to her side, listening. Somewhere deep in the keep, blacksmith hammers rang, a heartbeat of metal on metal signaling the start of training drills. She pushed up, braided her hair again, and washed with chilled water. The reflection that met her eyes in the basin's surface was drawn but unbroken. Breakfast arrived on a tray carried by Leona, warm porridge sweetened with forest berries. The maid lingered a second longer than usual. "Healer Mara said thank you," Leona whispered. "Those 3 warriors would have bled out if you hadn't helped." Heat pricked Ariana's cheeks. "I'm grateful she trusted me." Leona's lips twitched into a shy smile before she retreated. Ariana ate slowly, savoring the fruit's brightness against bland oats. Every bite reminded her she had strength to spare. A knock interrupted the quiet. A guard delivered a parchment sealed with crimson wax. A summons to the council chamber at mid-morning. Not from Dominic. The seal bore the Gamma's mark. Ariana frowned. Celine bristled. They want to gauge us, the wolf murmured. Then we show who we are. 2 guards escorted her through labyrinthine corridors until heavy double doors swung open. The council chamber was circular, lit by torches and a domed skylight. 5 elders in dark leather occupied stone seats. Gamma Lisa stood near a table spread with scrolls. Conversation hushed when Ariana entered. Princess Ariana, Lisa greeted with restrained courtesy. Thank you for coming. Ariana inclined her head. You requested me. An elder with white-streaked hair leaned forward. Reports say you aided our injured last night. Admirable. But we must ask your intentions. My intention was to prevent needless death, Ariana replied. A younger elder snorted. Easy to claim. Harder to trust when war ended only days ago. Ariana fixed him with calm eyes. If I wanted Bloodfang to fall, I would let your warriors bleed, not heal them. Lisa studied her. Nevertheless, caution is our duty. We propose restrictions on your movement until mutual confidence develops. You already restrict me, Ariana said gently. Yet confidence grows from collaboration, not confinement. Murmurs fluttered. Before anyone answered, the doors banged. Dominic strode in, cloak snapping behind him. Conversation died. He surveyed the room, then Ariana. His hair was damp from a rinse, and a fresh tunic covered the stitched gash on his arm. Why was I not informed of this meeting, he asked, voice like distant thunder. Gamma Lisa spoke first. We wish to address concerns without burdening you, Alpha. The princess... Dominic cut a hand through the air. She is my responsibility. Concerns regarding her pass through me. An elder bristled. With respect, Alpha, your attachment must not cloud judgment. Dominic's eyes chilled. Attachment? I rejected the bond last we checked. The elder cleared his throat, subdued. Ariana stepped forward, voice level. Dominic, I am here willingly. If your counsel seeks assurance, I will give it. Every gaze shifted to the Alpha. Muscles flexed in his jaw. Speak, then. Ariana clasped her hands. Bloodfang is now my home. Your people's welfare is mine. Judge me by my actions, not my birth. Last night proved I choose life over rivalry. She met each elder's eyes. If you fear I'll betray you, let me earn trust through service. Holding me captive fosters only resentment. Silence thickened. Dominic's attention never left her face. Something unreadable flickered behind his gray irises. Finally, Lisa exhaled. A trial period, perhaps. Limited supervised duties in the infirmary. I accept, Ariana said. Dominic nodded once, grudging. So be it. Council dismissed. He turned on his heel. Ariana followed, unsure if she was supposed to. In the hall, he stopped, folding arms. You negotiated well. I told the truth. She searched his expression for hostility, found only fatigue. Thank you for supporting me. He looked away as if the gratitude stung more than accusation. Do not disappoint them. Or you, she ventured. You cannot disappoint me, Dominic answered, eyes narrowing. I expect nothing. Celine growled low, but Ariana kept her voice calm. You expect darkness because you live in it. Step into light, Dominic. He flinched as though slapped, mask slipping only a fraction before snapping back. Return to your wing. Rest. Mara will call if needed. She wanted to ask him to rest too, wanted to brush stray hair from his brow and feel if the feverish heat she sensed was real. Instead, she obeyed. The corridor swallowed his broad shoulders behind her. Hours passed in restless pacing while sunlight slid across floor tiles. Remembering the pup she'd bandaged, Ariana drafted a quick note to Maera, suggesting honey salve changes and advising rest for the trainee. Leona delivered it. Near sunset, she heard commotion below. Through her balcony doors, She saw trainees gathering for an evening spar. Curiosity and a twinge of rebellion tugged at her feet. Cloaking herself, she descended unseen stairs that skirted the inner ring. Old servants' passages she'd noted that morning. The door opened into a covered walkway bordering the training yard's east side. She stayed in shadows, watching. Dominic stood in the ring, stripped to his waist, fur crawling under his skin as he half-shifted for demonstration. Varek's ears rose, muzzle jutting from Dominic's face before retracting between breath cycles. Trainees circled him, weapons nowhere in sight, claws gleaming under torch flare. Dominic corrected a young wolf's stance, repositioned weight, then barked orders. His focus was absolute. One trainee misjudged balance and stumbled. Dominic caught him, steadying instead of scolding. Surprise softened the rookie's eyes. Dominic patted his shoulder, pointing out the error. The kindness was fleeting but real. Ariana's breath hitched. Celine's tail wagged once before resuming watchful stillness. Sudden laughter to her right drew her gaze. Two older warriors lounged near barrels, unaware of her in the shadows. Bet the new Luna won't last a month, one scoffed. Bloodfang eats soft hearts. Maybe the alpha finally marks her, the other said, voice thick with ale. Then she'll be too busy screaming to meddle in training. Ariana's cheeks burned hot. Celine bristled viciously. Let me show them a soft heart's bite, the wolf snarled. No, not yet. Ariana stepped into the torchlight. Both warriors froze, color draining. Your Luna hears well, she said quietly. Train your manners or I'll ask Dominic to put you on pup watch duty. They stammered apologies. Ariana turned away, pulse thundering. Dominic stood farther down the ring, expression unreadable. She hadn't realized he'd noticed her arrival. He dismissed the trainees and approached, rolling shoulders that gleamed with sweat. You're outside your wing again. I missed the sun earlier, she replied, forcing composure. He eyed the shamed warriors retreating. They forget themselves. They obey the example set for them, Ariana said softly. Fear breeds ugliness. Dominic's chest rose sharply. Varek's eyes flickered amber. You speak as though you know my pack better than I. I observe. She gestured toward the trainees still cleaning up. Many respect you out of terror. Terror won a war, but it cannot rule a generation. His lips parted to retort, yet no words came. Instead he asked, Did they hurt you with their talk? It takes more than crude words to wound me. She lifted her chin. But your pack could be more if you let them see there's strength and compassion. Dominic's laugh was low, almost sad. Compassion killed my father. It was betrayal that killed him. Ariana corrected softly. Compassion never wielded a blade. He froze. For a heartbeat, the courtyard held its breath. Then he spun away without dismissal, stalking toward the keep entrance. Yet halfway there he stopped, shoulders tense. Against stone silence his voice floated back, rougher than winter bark. Go inside, it's cold. She realized then the wind had picked up, slicing through her cloak. She went, steps echoing until torches gave way to corridor dimness. Behind her, Dominic's gaze pierced between shadows, following until she vanished. That night clouds devoured the moon. Ariana couldn't sleep. She wandered her chamber, fingers brushing spines of books she'd found on a shelf, pack histories, military treatises, herbal almanacs. She selected the almanac and curled on a window bench, reading by flickering candlelight. Outside, rain arrived in brittle sheets, drumming against the glass. Thunder growled. Each rumble sent a tremor through the stone. Celine lifted her head, ears alert. He dreams, the wolf whispered. A pang shivered along the bond. Dominic's unsettled sleep. Images of fire, screams, a woman's soft voice cut short. Ariana pressed palm to her throat, wishing she could soothe him from afar. She allowed warmth to flow along the connection. No words, just steady reassurance. The tremor eased. Somewhere, she felt him exhale. Sometime after midnight, footsteps clicked in the corridor. A guard's voice murmured orders. Another pair of boots followed. Ariana doused her candle and cracked the door. 2 warriors carried crates toward the infirmary. She caught Dominic's name. Something about a late scout report. Tension renewed its grip. But she stayed inside. Promises mattered. She watched until torches dwindled. Dawn approached again before her eyes finally slid closed. The last thing she felt was the bond's pulse. Softer now. Like a distant drum, easing into calm. Dominic rose from bed before sunrise, drenched in sweat. He had dreamed of his father again, of love turned to ash and enemies breaching walls. Yet at the end, a hand had brushed his cheek, gentle, banishing flames. Ariana's scent remained when he woke, clinging to memory like dew. He sat on the edge of the mattress, palms over eyes. Weakness, he reminded himself. Varek nudged his thoughts. Hope. Dominic stood, resolved. Hope was a luxury, one he could not afford. Not yet. Across the keep, Ariana woke to the click of shutters opening onto a pale morning sky. Rain clouds lingered, but dawn's first light promised renewal. She rose, steeling spine and mind for another day inside the fortress cage. Selene hummed quietly. Ariana brushed wrinkles from her cloak, tied the silver ring around a ribbon at her wrist, and whispered to her reflection, "We endure." Down the corridor, Dominic strode toward the courtyard. Warriors snapped to rigid attention as he passed. He ignored them, eyes fixed on the horizon where storm clouds retreated. He inhaled cold air and felt the bond pulse, steady, alive, impossible to sever. And so the second day dawned on Bloodfang, binding Alpha and Princess in a silence thick with unsaid things. Walls remained high, guards remained watchful, but beneath stone and scar tissue something fragile began to breathe. Neither spoke of it. Neither dared break the fragile equilibrium. When night fell again, 2 hearts lay awake on opposite sides of the fortress, the bond humming between them like a wire too tight to snap. They were enemies, captor and captive, Alpha and conquered Luna. Yet every restless heartbeat carried the same question neither could outrun. How long before hate surrendered to something even more dangerous? A pale sliver of winter sun crept through the balcony curtains and brushed Ariana's cheek with the gentlest warmth she had felt in days. Awareness returned in layers. The weight of thick blankets, the scent of pine smoke curling from the hearth, the faint echo of boots in the corridor beyond her door. For a few heartbeats she lay still, listening to the metronome of her own breathing, amazed it was steady. Dominic had found her in the snow before the bond could tear her soul apart. Selene stirred, stretching sore muscles inside her mind. "You scared me," Selene murmured, voice husky from exhaustion. "I scared myself," Ariana answered, fingers curling around the edge of the quilt. "But we're alive. We try again today." A soft knock sounded. Leona peeked in, eyes rimmed red from weeping. "You're awake," she breathed, relief flooding every syllable. "Come in," Ariana said, pushing herself upright. Her limbs felt heavy, but strength pulsed through them. Borrowed perhaps from the fact Dominic had stayed at her bedside long after Mayera dismissed the healers. She could still sense him somewhere in the fortress, a faint spark on a taut thread, restless but alive. Leona placed a tray on the bedside table. Honeyed oatmeal, stewed berries, willow bark tea. "Mayera said you need warmth inside and out." Ariana tried a smile. "Tell Mara I owe her many thanks." She took the tea and inhaled the steam. "And you, Leona, thank you for caring." Leona's chin dipped. "I should have warned you. The tunnel gate freezes in winter. I thought the latch would open." Her throat bobbed. "I thought—" Ariana reached, squeezing the maid's hands. "You didn't force me to run. You only showed me the path." She swallowed, remembering snow under her knees, lungs clawing for air that wouldn't come. Sometimes desperation chooses for us. Leona dabbed her eyes and stood. I'll tell Myra you're awake. Ariana finished half the oatmeal, then swung her legs over the side. The stone floor was cool beneath her soles but solid, comforting after the weightless terror of the night before. She dressed slowly, selecting a charcoal gray dress with fitted sleeves that allowed easy movement. At the wardrobe's bottom lay the soft leather boots she'd worn in the forest, still dusted with frost stains. She left them and slipped into sturdy slippers instead. Heading toward the door, she paused, listening for the guards. None. Either Dominic had called them away or they were changing shifts. Time to face whatever the day holds, Celine said. Ariana straightened her shoulders and stepped into the corridor. 2 new guards waited, stiff as stone. They blinked when they saw her but said nothing. She inclined her head. I'm going to the infirmary. One cleared his throat. The Alpha said you may resume duties under escort. Then escort me. She walked ahead, forcing her legs into a steady rhythm. Every step tested her balance, but pride anchored her spine. Passing servants whispered greetings. Some bowed slightly. She responded with nods, ignoring prying eyes. The infirmary smelled of thyme and boiled bandages. Myra stood over a table grinding dried roots, her white braids coiled tight. She looked up, expression softening. Moonclaw Princess returns from the dead. Less dramatic than that, Ariana said, easing onto a stool. What needs doing? Mara pointed her pestle at a row of salves. Label these, then see to Rorik's stitches. He's a baby about the itch. Ariana set to work. The routine, measured spoonfuls, crisp parchment tags, tidy string knots, soothed her frayed nerves. Warriors drifted in for minor injuries, a bruised rib from sparring, a split lip after an overeager tackle. Each thanked her respectfully. One young mother carried a feverish pup. Ariana brewed chamomile and yarrow, knelt to the child's level, and coaxed her to drink. The mother's gratitude glowed from watery eyes. You're kind, Luna, she whispered. Ariana froze. Luna. The word was a balm and a bruise. I'm not their Luna yet, Ariana thought to Selene. Not officially, the wolf replied, but hearts choose faster than ceremonies. A clatter at the doorway turned every head. Dominic barged in, cloak swirling, his presence pushing air aside. Warriors snapped to stiff attention. Ariana rose slowly, tea still warm in her hands. Dominic's eyes swept the room before pinning her. A muscle ticked in his jaw. Everyone out, he ordered. Protests died in throats. Even Mara obeyed, though she muttered under her breath about interruptions. The last warrior closed the door behind him, leaving silence thick as ash. Dominic advanced a step. Ariana held her ground, setting the cup on a shelf. You're needed on the training grounds. Warriors heal quicker when not forced to wait. He ignored the jab. They call you Luna. Ariana folded her arms. I heard. You encourage it. His voice throbbed with accusation. I encourage life, she answered. If offering a soothing word inspires courage, I'll speak. Their injuries won't mend by fear alone. Your kindness isn't charity, it's manipulation. Her brows lifted. Helping a feverish child is manipulation. Heat tinged her words. Your pack bleeds for you. When I can ease that pain, I will. Dominic stepped closer until only a breath separated them. The matebond flared, ruthless and hot. She felt his struggle in the tremor of his hand at his side. Part of him wanted to reach, part to retreat. They need discipline, he said, though his tone lacked its usual edge. They need to remember who leads. Lead them, then, Ariana whispered. Not by fear, but by respect. She saw Varric flash behind Dominic's eyes, a plea rather than a command. A flutter of sorrow softened her voice. You're afraid they'll love me more than you. But love isn't subtraction, Dominic. It's multiplication. He recoiled as if struck. For an instant, anguish cracked the granite of his face. Then the mask returned, colder than stone. You will remain in the inner wing. No infirmary, no courtyard, no contact with pups. Pain lanced her chest, but pride held her chin high. Lock every door, she said quietly. It won't stop them from needing me. Dominic's nostrils flared. Varric growled low enough only their wolves heard. Dominic spun and stalked out, slamming the door. Bottles rattled. Ariana pressed knuckles to her lips, inhaling shakily. He's terrified, Celine murmured, and he hurts us to keep himself safe. Ariana drew one steadying breath, then opened the door. Guards waited, faces blank. I'm returning to my rooms. They nodded, falling in step. Behind her, Myra poked her head around a corner, eyes stormy. Ariana just shook her head. A silent promise she'd be all right. On the walk back, servants remained silent, but their eyes flickered with sympathy. News traveled fast. In her chambers, Ariana paced like a caged lynx. Each circuit scraped nerves raw. The walls had not changed, yet they felt closer, heavier. Celine padded circles inside, equally agitated. We're suffocating, the wolf warned. We can't keep living on his terms, Ariana agreed, but confrontation only hardens him. Then show him absence. Dusk found Ariana staring over courtyard battlements from her balcony. Across the fortress, twilight bled purple over jagged roofs. Torches winked to life one by one like hesitant stars. She watched Dominic stride among warriors, barking orders, muscles coiled. He trained until moonrise, fighting two warriors at once in half-shift, fur sliding across flesh in shimmers. Rage leaked from every strike. When the last opponent yielded, he dismissed them and remained alone, shoulders heaving. He's shaking, Selene whispered. He'll never admit why, Ariana replied. But the sight hollowed her chest. She pressed her forehead to the stone, feeling the chill seep into her skin while the bond pulled like a rope tied around her heart. Long after he disappeared inside, she traced the balcony shadows for a hidden latch. Last night's desperation had shown her one path. Tonight, she sought another. One the bond couldn't strangle so quickly. She slipped back into her chamber. Leona lit candles inside, humming a lullaby. Ariana waited until she left, then pulled on a hooded cloak and sturdy boots, fresh from the fire to melt the frost. Gathering extra socks, flint, and a wedge of cheese, she tucked them into a satchel. Selene paced. Do we dare again? Pain could kill us. We only need space to breathe, Ariana answered. The forest is wide. The service tunnel sighed open with a groan of iron hinges. Cold air rushed her cheeks. She slipped into the narrow passage, pulling the door until it clicked behind her. Darkness wrapped around her shoulders like a second cloak. She lit a stub of candle and followed damp steps downward, every footfall muffled by dust-soft moss. When she emerged through the outer postern, the world felt vast. Pines loomed, their silhouettes painted silver by a near-full moon. Ariana pulled her cloak tighter, inhaling the sharp scent of frost. For the first time since crossing the fortress gate as a prisoner, she stood alone beneath an open sky. Freedom, Selene sighed, relief vibrating in that single breath. They walked. Snow crunched beneath boots, rhythmic and hypnotic. Branches hissed overhead. Ariana's breaths puffed white clouds. The forest belonged to predators, but none approached. Perhaps the mate bond repelled them, a warning of Alpha's claim. An hour passed before she felt it, the first tug, subtle as a thread catching on a nail. Her pace slowed. The bond curled like hot wire around her ribs. Keep moving, Selene urged, though her voice wavered. Ariana pressed onward, choosing a slope that led toward a glimmering creek. At its bank she knelt, cupped icy water, and drank. The cold shocked her tongue awake. Then the bond tightened sharply. Her vision tilted. The world blinked to gray. Selene whimpered. He feels us leaving. Ariana stood, legs wobbling. The moon blurred. She pushed forward, stubborn, until dizziness forced her against a tree. She clung to the trunk, panting. Selene tried to shift, but agony sliced through them both. Fur rippled under Ariana's skin before retreating in shards of pain. She cried out. Snow swallowed the sound. Another minute of walking broke her knees. She crashed into a drift, heartbeat pounding against ice. Fog edged her vision, colors leaching to white, then black. She exhaled Dominic's name on a ragged breath before losing track of her lips. In the keep, Dominic jerked awake at his desk. The map under his hand blurred. Varric's howl detonated in his skull. Pain cleaved his chest so fierce it buckled him. He knew instantly. Ariana. He shifted mid-stride, clothes tearing away. Massive paws pounded stone, sparks flying as claws scraped. Guards shouted, but he ignored them, leaping from a lower parapet to the courtyard, landing in a roll that cracked flagstones. Within heartbeats, he vaulted the outer wall, disappearing into timber shadow. Snow inhaled the thunder of his run. Varric's nose tracked her scent, faint, frantic, dotted by falling flakes. Dominic's lungs burned, but terror drove him faster. He found broken prints weaving between pines, then a limp shape collapsed beside the creek. Moonlight painted Ariana's cloak a ghostly blue. She was motionless. A roar tore from his throat as he skidded to her side. Varric whined, nudging her shoulder. Dominic shifted back, hands shaking. He pressed 2 fingers to her neck. Pulse. A fragile flutter. Frost rimmed her lashes. He pulled her upright against his chest, feeling the raw heat of the bond relink. She shuddered, inhaled a thin gasp. Breathe, he commanded, voice cracking. Stay with me. Her eyes fluttered. Dominic, she rasped. I can't. He wrapped her in his arms. You will. Rage at her choice fought with fear that her life might slip between his fingers. He stood, lifting her effortlessly, and sprinted toward the fortress. Snow blurred underfoot. Each leap jarred his spine, but he shielded her as if she were glass. The bond's pain eased slightly with every stride, but exhaustion gnawed his muscles. At the gate, startled sentries leapt aside. Dominic barreled to the infirmary door, kicking it open. Mara jolted awake from a chair. By the spirits of hypothermia, Dominic barked. Fix it. Mara sprang into action. Leona appeared, tears spilling anew. They stripped Ariana's wet cloak, wrapped her in blankets, rubbed limbs to drive blood back into her fingers. Dominic hovered close, face white beneath torchlight. When Maera ordered water for tea, he fetched the kettle himself. Minutes stretched like winters until Ariana's eyelids flicked. She blinked at the ceiling, then at Dominic's rigid figure. Her lips trembled. I'm sorry. Anger flared in him, but relief drowned it. He knelt beside the cot, hands curling around the mattress edge. Do you value your life so little? Her eyes filled. I valued breathing without chains. Tears slid past her temples. Mara gently pushed Dominic back, checking Ariana's pulse again. She'll live, the healer said, thanks to thick wolf blood and thick skulls. She shot Dominic a meaningful look that made him bristle. Leona wiped Ariana's forehead with a warm cloth. Rest, my lady. Ariana nodded weakly. When Maera finally shooed them all out, Dominic remained. Maera grumbled, but left them alone. Torches guttered, casting their shadows large on stone. Dominic sat, elbows on knees, watching Ariana's wrists twitch in dreams. The urge to brush hair from her cheek rose, but he fisted his hands instead. Varric's voice rumbled inside. We almost lost her again. Dominic closed his eyes briefly. Because she ran. Because we drove her to it, Varric insisted. Silence stretched. Candle flame popped. Ariana exhaled softly, her fingers drifting toward him even in sleep. He caught himself leaning forward and jerked back. Rising, he paced to the window, stared at snow glittering under moonlight. He stayed until her breathing deepened, until candles guttered low. Only then did he leave. Ariana surfaced from half-dreams when weak dawn light slid across her eyelids. Her body felt wrapped in cotton and stone at once, too heavy to move but strangely buoyant with relief. She tried flexing her fingers. Warmth tingled through them. A fire crackled at the hearth and the faint scratch of quill on parchment reached her ears. She blinked until Dominic's silhouette sharpened. He sat at a small side table, bare arms folded, writing something with quick, precise strokes. His hair hung loose, still damp from a wash, midnight strands falling over his brow. He sensed her gaze and stopped. Gray eyes lifted, guarded but unmistakably bright, with something she dared not name. "How long?" Her voice rasped. "Few hours," he answered. "Your temperature stabilized before sunrise." "Mara, she's fetching more willow bark." He set the quill down. "Water?" She nodded. He crossed the room in 2 strides, poured from a jug into a wooden cup, and held it to her lips. The first sip burned with life. She drank greedily, then coughed when cool water shocked her throat. "Slow," he murmured, thumb brushing a stray drop from her chin before he caught himself and stepped back. "I'll have broth brought up." Ariana rested her head against the pillow, watching him pace to the window. The bond hummed low, no longer snarling, but alive like slow thunder preparing another storm. "Dominic," she said softly. He stiffened. "I didn't run to hurt you." He faced her, jaw tight. "Intent doesn't mend consequences. You could have died." "Maybe," she allowed, voice shaking. But dying seemed a lesser pain than living unseen. The words hung between them. Varric surged, ears flattened. Dominic shut his eyes, fighting the instinct to comfort or rage. He chose neither and left without replying. The door closed quietly, but the echo of his conflicted scent lingered. Over the next 2 days, Ariana remained in the infirmary, forbidden to walk farther than the small courtyard just beyond Mayera's door. Guards hovered, yet kept respectful distance. Mayera's brusque care bordered on affection. Extra blankets, stronger broth. No lectures beyond an occasional, "Don't be foolish again." Leona visited often, bringing news. "The trainees talk about the night he carried you," she whispered one afternoon, while adjusting Ariana's pillows. "They say Varric howled so loud the ravens fled the roosts." Ariana's cheeks heated. "That will stir more gossip." "It has." Leona wrung her hands. "Some warriors call you the bond breaker, saying you hold the alpha's heart in a cage." "I don't want his heart in a cage," Ariana muttered. "I want it free." "Then you must unlock it," Leona stated, surprising boldness in her tone before she hurried off. Late that evening, Myra fell asleep in her chair. Ariana crept to the window, overlooking the torchlit training yard. Warriors were long gone, but Dominic remained, shirtless under cold starlight, driving his body through relentless drills. Claw strikes into hanging logs, lunges, pivots, half-shifts, and back. Sweat glistened on his shoulders, each exhale clouded the air. She pressed a palm to the frosted pane, helplessly drawn. "He senses us," Celine murmured. Almost on cue, Dominic stopped mid-swing, chest heaving. He looked up at the infirmary window. Even across the distance, his gaze locked with Ariana's. Something raw flickered. Neither anger nor longing, but a dangerous brew of both. She stepped back, heart rattling. Dominic resumed his assault on the logs with doubled ferocity until splinters exploded. In the morning, Torin arrived carrying a folded cloak. He handed it to Ariana without greeting. "The Alpha requests your presence in the council courtyard." "Requests?" she asked warily. "He wants you to see something." Torin's calm facade betrayed tension in drawn lips. "I'll escort you." Curiosity overcame caution. She draped the cloak and followed. Outside, warriors formed 2 lines facing each other across open flagstones. Snow had been swept clear. Dominic stood at one end, fully dressed this time, arms behind his back. Lysa and 3 elders observed from the steps. Torin guided Ariana to Dominic's left. She searched his face. Stone met her gaze. "What is this?" she whispered. "A demonstration," Dominic said, voice echoing across the courtyard. "Of discipline. He barked an order. 2 warriors stepped forward. Young men Ariana had treated in the infirmary. They moved stiffly, eyes uncertain. "These soldiers neglected patrol shift yesterday," Dominic announced. "They shirked duty to gossip." A cold knot formed in Ariana's gut. She could guess the gossip's subject. "Choose wolf or human form for punishment," Dominic told them. Both half-shifted. Claws, fur, but still human-eyed. Dominic removed his coat and tossed it aside. "You will learn why bond rumors weaken a pack's focus." Ariana's pulse thrashed. "Dominic, they're barely healed." He ignored her, shifting mid-stride until Varric's massive wolf body dominated the yard. Midnight fur and silver-tipped ears. Gasps rippled. Ariana stepped forward, but Torin's hand touched her elbow, a silent plea to stay back. Varric circled the 2 wolves once, snarling low. Then he lunged. The spar was brutal but restrained. Varric struck with precision, knocking each warrior onto their backs without mauling them. He dominated through force of presence, not lethal claws, yet blood still dotted snow when fangs grazed careless limbs. Ariana flinched with every impact. Selene bristled, growling inside. "Stop him," Selene urged. "He won't listen." "Then we will." She stepped forward again, voice ringing across the courtyard. "Enough." They learned. Varric paused, paw pinning one warrior's chest. His golden wolf eyes met hers. A growl rumbled, questioning. Dominic wrestled for control inside, breath ragged. Ariana felt the internal struggle through the bond. Pride demanding finish, conscience begging restraint. After a long beat, Varric lifted his paw and patted back, shifting mid-stride. Dominic emerged, chest heaving, gaze like fractured ice. Murmurs flared among observers, some relieved, others unsettled by Ariana's command and its effect. Dominic donned his coat, not once looking at her as he addressed the warriors. "Remember loyalty." He dismissed them and strode for the inner hall. Ariana stormed after him. Inside a side corridor, she caught his arm. That was cruelty disguised as lesson. He spun, eyes volcanic. Cruelty is letting discipline rot. Discipline without empathy is tyranny. "Spare me Moonclaw morality," he spat, voice low and dangerous. "Your pack's empathy lost them the war." She recoiled, stung. "My pack lost to numbers, not heart." "They lost because they were weak and they gave you away gladly to breathe one more day." The words landed like a blade. Ariana staggered as though struck. Dominic's anger dimmed when he saw her face, but pride refused retreat. He added coldly, "They surrendered you so easily, it's clear how little you ever mattered." Silence thundered. Ariana's soul tore along lines newly mended. Selene emitted a wounded howl inside her chest. She straightened with painful grace, eyes glistening, but resolute. "I mattered more than you will ever understand," she whispered. Turning, she walked away. Measured steps, shoulders rigid. She did not break until she reached her chamber. There she collapsed against the door as sobs broke free. "We can't stay," Selene said through shared anguish. Ariana slid to the floor, pulling knees to chest. "Not here, but where?" The fortress pressed in, walls thicker than before. She cried until exhaustion numbed grief. Then she stood, wiped cheeks, and paced like an animal trapped. Evening shadows stretched when Leona knocked. She found Ariana packing spare clothing. "You can't," the maid whispered, pale. "Not again." "I won't go far," Ariana answered, voice brittle, "but I must breathe." Leona hesitated, then slipped a small vial into Ariana's satchel. "Essence of heartleaf. For pain." Tears brimmed. "Please come back." Ariana hugged her briefly before pulling on boots. She slipped into the servants' corridor. Footsteps echoed, distant. Guards changed watch on outer ramparts. She traced last night's route through the cold passage toward freedom. Halfway down she paused. A low growl echoed behind. She turned slowly. Dominic stood at the corridor entrance, half shifted, eyes glowing amber. He hadn't had to track scent. The bond guided him like a beacon. Going to vanish again? His voice was rough velvet, soaked in regret and anger. She tightened her grip on the satchel strap. I need air your walls can't give. You think the forest will heal what you break inside? He advanced a step. The bond will destroy you. And keeping me here will destroy me faster. Tears threatened again, but she held them back. You cast my worth to the snow today. Why keep what you don't value? He flinched. Varric's ears flattened. You twist my words. I repeat them. She inhaled shakily. If you want me silent and invisible, say so plainly. I'll find a corner and wait for death like a forgotten relic. His brows drew tight, pain-carved lines around his mouth. That is not what I want. Voice cracked on the last word. What do you want, Dominic? She stepped closer despite trembling legs. Because I am shattering piece by piece trying to figure it out. The corridor lantern sputtered, casting wavering light across his face. Storm gray eyes swirling with guilt, fear, longing. For a breath, the fortress seemed to hold its own inhale, waiting. Dominic reached but stopped inches from her cheek, fingertips trembling. Varric pushed, pleading inside, but Dominic dropped his hand. I don't know, he whispered, anguish raw. Ariana's heart pulsed painfully. Selene pressed forward, wanting to comfort, yet Ariana stepped back. When you do know, come find me. She turned, walked past him, back toward her chamber. She could feel his stare between her shoulder blades all the way down the hall. That night she stayed in her room, door locked, curtains drawn. Snow began to fall outside, large, lazy flakes drifting through torchlight. She sat at the window, watching them melt against the pane. A candle burned low beside her, scenting the air with lavender oil borrowed from Mara. Hours slipped. Selene nested quietly in her mind, licking wounds. Across the fortress, Dominic paced his chambers until dawn. Books lay open, maps scattered, yet his thoughts circled only Ariana's words, her tears, the way she'd looked at him as though he'd carved her open. Varric prowled, their shared chest aching with regret. They ran into training yard to fight dummies until hands bled. They returned to pace. Neither pain nor exhaustion silenced the memory. Morning fog crept over battlements, muffling torches. Dominic stopped at the window. From here he could see Ariana's balcony. Curtains remained closed. He stood vigil until sunrise washed gray into faint rose. In that vulnerable hush, he whispered to no one, "What do I want?" Varric answered inside, gentle for once, her, whole. He pressed forehead to the cold pane. Outside, the world waited, silent as snow. Ariana rose before sunrise the next morning, determined to reclaim fragments of herself that sorrow had scattered. Snow still drifted outside, but dawn's thin glow painted the white in pale coral. Selene stirred, pressing encouragement into her spirit. We stay, the wolf whispered, but on our own terms. Ariana washed quickly, braided her hair into a tight crown, and wrapped herself in a deep green cloak Myra had once said matched the forest. She found the guards posted at her door, new faces again. They stiffened when she requested passage to the south greenhouse, a glass-roofed annex she had glimpsed on her first day. The Alpha hasn't forbidden that wing, she pointed out calmly. They exchanged glances, then escorted her through quiet halls. Frost webbed the glass walls of the greenhouse, but braziers kept the interior temperate. Beds of winter herbs, sage, heartleaf, frost fern, thrived in wooden troughs, their scents mingling into crisp earthiness. The sight filled Ariana's chest with a warmth books and blankets could not. She rolled up sleeves and knelt beside a frost fern row, trimming dead stalks. The work blurred time. Footsteps interrupted only when a small pup skidded through the door, breath puffing in excitement. He spotted Ariana and froze, wide-eyed. Hello, she greeted softly. Are you lost? He shook his head, sniffled, and held up a broken pot. Mama says I ruined her seedlings. Ariana beckoned him closer, inspecting the cracked clay. We can mend this with resin. Come. She rummaged in a tools cabinet, found a jar of pine resin, and guided his small hands. As they worked, the pup's nervousness melted into shy smiles. It's Pasco, he finally offered. My name. She smiled. Pasco, tell your mother the seedlings will sprout stronger after replanting. Sometimes roots need fresh soil. He giggled, relief brightening his eyes. When Pasco ran off, Ariana stood and brushed dirt from her skirt. Gamma Lisa leaned against the doorway, arms folded. Ariana's guard straightened behind her. Embarrassed, they hadn't noticed the Gamma's arrival. You've tamed another stray, Lisa observed, voice neutral. I offered help, Ariana replied. Lisa's gaze lingered on the herb beds. You realize every kindness you show challenges the alpha's grip. Dominic's grip doesn't need weakening, Ariana said evenly. It needs balance. Lisa exhaled, studying her with something like reluctant admiration. Balance is costly in a pack born of war, but you... She paused, as if tasting the next words. You could change Bloodfang if he lets you. Question is whether the pack survives the change. Ariana set the shears aside. Survival means more than claws and walls, Gamma. Lisa inclined her head, half-smile tugging one corner of her mouth, then left. The guards waited as Ariana collected herb clippings. She asked to deliver them to the infirmary. They obliged. Mara accepted the bundle with approval. Heartleaf and frost fern. Good for lung tonic. She eyed Ariana. You look steadier. Work helps. Ariana began sorting leaves. I can't sit in stone silence. Mara patted her arm. Stone cracks eventually, child. Even the hardest. Late afternoon brought a muffled horn from the outer ramparts, 3 blasts. Guards in the corridor stiffened. Ariana's heart lurched. Border trouble, Selene warned. From the courtyard window she glimpsed warriors assembling. Dominic strode among them, barking orders. Snow dusted his shoulders. He met Torin at the gate. Then both shifted mid-stride. 2 immense wolves, charging into the pale light beyond the walls. The sight left Ariana's pulse erratic. Hours crawled. Dusk descended in bruised indigo. The infirmary stayed quiet. Too quiet. Ariana prepared salves, lined blankets near the hearth, and stoked the fire until Maera made her rest. The door burst open close to midnight. Warriors carried Dominic, half-shifted, bleeding from a deep slash across his thigh. Torin followed, dragging a rogue's severed claw for Mara's inspection. Ariana's breath hitched, she rushed forward. Blood soaked Dominic's fur pooling on the floor. Mara commandeered a table. Get bandages, hot water, she barked. Ariana obeyed before the words finished. She trimmed Dominic's torn trousers, revealing the jagged wound. Mara cleaned it. Ariana packed crushed frost fern to slow bleeding. Dominic's eyes flickered open, wolf amber shining. Rogues ambushed near Ridgewatch, Torin said, voice taut. Alpha tore most to pieces, but one had silvered claws. Mara hissed, more poison? A trace, Torin confirmed. Our healer at Ridgewatch purged the worst. Ariana soaked cloth in distilled liquor, cleansing edges of the gash while murmuring low reassurance. Dominic grimaced but did not growl. Varric's presence lingered close, sniffing at Ariana through Dominic's eyes. You're safe, she told both silently. Pain contracted Dominic's jaw. Won't let them breach, he muttered, trying to sit. Lie still, Ariana commanded. The authority in her tone shocked even her guards. Dominic's chest heaved, then he obeyed, sinking back. Mara stitched swiftly. Ariana's hand staunched fresh bleeding. When the wound closed, sweat dampened Dominic's brow. Ariana dabbed it, heart twisting. Mara mixed tonic. Ariana lifted Dominic's head to help him drink. He swallowed, eyes never leaving her face. It will burn, Mara warned. Dominic grunted, eyelids drooping. Warriors carried him to a pallet by the hearth. Torin debriefed Mara, then left. Exhaustion weighed on the infirmary. Candles burned low. Mara collapsed into her chair, motioning for Ariana to rest too. But Ariana knelt beside Dominic's pallet. Snowflakes melted on his tangled hair. She brushed them away gently. At her touch he exhaled, and the bond sparked warm rather than painful, like a hearth kindling instead of wildfire. Celine pressed, offering quiet pride. Varek responded with weary gratitude inside Dominic. Hours passed in that hush. Ariana dozed lightly, head resting on crossed arms beside him. She woke when Dominic stirred just before dawn. Eyes half open, he found her hand on his chest. He did not move it away. "Why stay?" he rasped. She raised her head. "Because even alphas need someone." Pain flickered. "I don't deserve it." She squeezed his hand before rising. "Deserve has nothing to do with need." She retrieved fresh water, helped him drink, then checked stitches. The fever seemed low. Color returned to his cheeks. Mara woke and, seeing Ariana's pallor, insisted she sleep. Ariana retreated to a nearby cot. Before eyes closed, she glimpsed Dominic watching her through half lids, expression too open to read before darkness claimed her. The sun was well above the mountains when Ariana awoke. Dominic was gone from the pallet. Panic bolted through her until she found him standing shirtless by the window, weight on his good leg, clouded light bathing broad shoulders. Bandage wrapped his thigh. "You should be resting," she scolded, sitting up. He turned slowly. "My wolf heals faster under sun." His gaze softened as it drifted to her rumpled hair. "You stayed again?" She pressed lips together. "I wasn't chained, if that's what worries you." A faint smile ghosted his mouth, first she'd ever seen. It vanished quickly. He limped closer, each step deliberate. "I owe you thanks." "And an apology," she whispered. He slanted a look. "For what?" "For telling me my pack discarded me." She lifted her chin. "You know nothing of their grief." Silence pulsed. Varek stirred inside him. Dominic's jaw clenched, then relaxed. "You're right. I was cruel." Words scratched raw, but true. "I thought hate kept me strong." "Hate is a shield made of glass," she said gently. "It breaks first." "It protected me for years." His shoulders sagged. "Now it only cuts." Ariana's heart ached at the confession. She approached, careful, like soothing a wounded beast. "Then put it down." He stared at her hand, half raised toward him. Seconds stretched, heavy with possibility. He lifted his own, fingers hovering an inch from hers. But footsteps echoed in the corridor. Dominic pulled back, mask sliding into place. Mayra entered carrying fresh bandages. Tension dissolved into mundane routine. Dominic endured Mara's ministrations. Before leaving, he met Ariana's eyes once more, something unreadable flickering there, a promise or a plea. Then he limped out, Torin at his side. Snow melted to slush by midday. Ariana returned to her rooms. She bathed, changed into clean wool, and stood on her balcony as gray clouds parted, revealing a fragile patch of blue sky. A flock of ravens cut across the clearing, black shapes against brightening day. Celine lay beside her thoughts, tail brushing calm. "He'll come back," the wolf said. "Maybe," Ariana answered, though warmth blossomed in her chest. Hope was a dangerous seed, but seeds were meant to grow. Exhaustion claimed her mid-afternoon. She curled atop the blankets and drifted into dreams where snow thawed beneath wildflowers and a dark wolf watched from the trees, waiting, but no longer afraid. Night settled over Bloodfang. Dominic returned to his chamber after council reports. The thigh throbbed, but pain grounded him in the now. No war, no father's ghost, only the hush after battle. He lowered himself into a chair, staring at the faint imprint of her hand on the inside of his wrist where she had once steadied the water cup. Something within him turned, slow and seismic. "Love weakens," the old fear whispered. Varric answered, "Love strengthens." Dominic closed his eyes, letting the pack noises fade until only one heartbeat reached him through stone and distance. Ariana slept, steady and warm, and for the first time in years Dominic inhaled without the taste of ash. He whispered into the dark, a vow meant for no ears but the night. "I will find the courage to choose what my father feared." Morning would test that promise and many dawns after, but the first crack had opened in the fortress of his heart. Snow continued to fall beyond the high windows, yet inside, winter began to lose its hold. Morning light slanted through the infirmary's high windows, pale and cold, but more forgiving than the torch glow Ariana had grown used to. She breathed in quiet relief at the hushed shuffle of bandages, the clink of glass tincture jars, and Mayara's low humming as she sorted herbs. Since her collapse in the snow 2 weeks ago, Ariana had thrown herself into every task the healer would allow. Each small success, salving a burn, calming a feverish pup, stitched her sense of purpose back together. Leona darted in, arms full of folded linens. "Your greenhouse crates arrived. Fresh heartleaf, frost fern, and silver sage." "Perfect timing," Ariana said. "Mayara's supply of heartleaf tonic is almost gone." Leona grinned and piled the linens in a cupboard, then lowered her voice. "Warriors keep asking when you'll brew more of your honey root cough syrup. Winter training is brutal on throats." "I'll make a larger batch after evening rounds." Ariana tied her braid tighter. "Thank you for carrying the crates." Leona glanced toward the door before leaning closer. "Rumor is Lysa's requesting you for weapon wound debriefs. She says you rate injuries like maps." Her expression glowed with pride. Then she slipped out, soft steps echoing away. Ariana moved to a cot where young warrior Ivar sat grimacing, arm bandaged from wrist to elbow. She unwrapped the cloth, sniffed at angry red streaks that crept from a puncture. "Still sore?" "Feels like fire," Ivar muttered, jaw clenched. Mayra approached. Ariana met her eyes. "I smell wet rot. Needlethorn infection." She nodded toward the small purple pustule beginning near the wound's edge. "We need moonbark compress, not frost fern." Mayra's brows lifted. "Good catch." She rummaged in a cabinet while Ivar stared at Ariana in bleary surprise. "How?" he began. "Moonclaw healers taught me toxin sense." Ariana cleaned the wound with warm water, speaking calmly until Mayra returned. Ivar watched her, tension easing as the older healer applied fresh salve. He breathed a quiet, "Thank you." When Ivar left, Mayra murmured, "Gamalisa will want that report." Her respect could help ease Dominic's nerves, Ariana said, then stifled a humorless laugh. "If he still has any nerves left to ease." Mayra snorted. "He's a tangle of frayed wires lately. The whole keep feels it." Ariana knew. At night the bond throbbed with Dominic's restlessness, surges of adrenaline when he trained past midnight, waves of exhaustion when he finally collapsed, only to jolt awake hours later. Celine paced inside Ariana's mind, sensing Varric's agitation on the other side of the invisible thread. "You feel him scenting us," Celine murmured often. "He stands outside our door." "And always walks away," Ariana answered, equal parts grateful and heartbroken. Late that afternoon, Gamalisa arrived in the infirmary, copper hair pulled into a no-nonsense twist. She waved off formalities and pointed to Mayra's ledger. "I need injury patterns from yesterday's sparring matches. Alpha wants faster diagnosis during drills." Mayra gestured at Ariana. "She has the freshest notes, ask her." Lysa's amber-flecked eyes shifted. "Very well." Ariana detailed each injury, claw depth, strike angles, potential weaknesses in stance. Lysa listened, tapping her quill on leather armor. "You understand kinetic lines," Lysa observed. "Movement patterns fascinate me," Ariana answered, aware Mayra watched with hidden satisfaction. If a warrior keeps tearing the same ligament, we adjust training to strengthen that limb. Lisa nodded slowly. You may assist Torin in drafting tomorrow's warm-up rotations. Her tone suggested surprise at her own decision. Your insight could reduce avoidable wounds. Ariana inclined her head. I'm honored. As Lisa left, Ivar poked his head around the doorframe, eyes shining. She called you Luna when she walked out, he whispered, half dazzled, half amused. Ariana's cheeks warmed. She returned to inventory with renewed energy, though her heartbeat raced at the thought of Dominic's reaction. He still roamed the fortress like a thundercloud. Near sundown, she finished mixing honey root syrup in the tiny greenhouse kitchen. The fragrant steam wrapped her like a shawl. She scooped golden liquid into jars, sealed them, and labeled each in neat script. A soft hiss behind her made her turn. Mara stood in the doorway, arms folded. Word spreads, Mara said. Warriors call you healer. Pups call you Lady Bloom. Mothers call you Hope. The old woman's eyes softened. Be careful. One alpha may not bear the weight of so much praise. Ariana wiped jar rims. Dominic is strong enough to carry a pack. Surely he can carry a few compliments shared with someone else. Myra gave a slow, dry laugh. Strength and fear share the same spine. She tilted her head toward the courtyard beyond the glass. He's training again. I hear wood smashing. Ariana's pulse jumped. I'll deliver these to the mess hall, then rest, she promised. But after dropping the jars off with Leona in the storeroom, she found herself drawn to the outer walkway overlooking the main yard. Torches glowed against new snow, shadows dancing over carved stone. Dominic's figure dominated the center, broad shoulders, fur partially risen along his arms in half shift as he pummeled a wooden post. Splinters flew. Sweat glistened on his bare chest despite the cold. Varric's presence shimmered, close to breaking through. With each strike, Dominic grunted, breath fogging. Ariana gripped the railing, heart shuddering. Celine pressed forward, tail low with worry. He's punishing himself, Celine whispered. Why? Ariana wondered. Because others praise me? Because the bond digs deeper? Dominic whirled, landing a final blow that shattered the post. He stood panting amid debris. Slowly he looked up, eyes bright, feral, and found Ariana watching. Her breath caught. She couldn't tear away. Neither did he. For a moment, the space between them collapsed in silent recognition. Shared exhaustion. Shared ache. Varric rumbled inside Dominic, the sound rolling through the bond like a distant drumbeat. Ariana felt it vibrate in her chest. Celine answered with a low whine. Dominic's expression shifted, something raw flickering. Then he pivoted, stalking toward the keep entrance without a word. Splinters crunched under his boots. Ariana exhaled shakily, turned, and nearly collided with Torin. Apologies, the beta said. He glanced after Dominic, brow knit. He's pushing too hard. Ariana gripped the oil-slicked railing to steady her voice. He's breaking. Maybe you're the one thing that won't let him. Torin sighed. For what it's worth, some of us hope he listens to you. He won't, Ariana whispered. Torin's lips pressed thin. Perhaps not yet, but he hears you, even when he pretends he doesn't. He nodded politely and walked away, leaving Ariana staring at the shattered post, its cracked core gleaming like exposed bone. That night wind howled against the tower peaks. Ariana lay in bed, pulse matching each gust. Celine writhed beneath her thoughts. Restless, she sensed Dominic outside her door more than once. Footsteps approaching. Breath, catching then receding. Each time the bond tugged painfully. Near dawn, she drifted into uneasy dreams of a forest ablaze and Dominic searching for her in smoke. She woke sweating to a metallic clang in the courtyard below. Smoke indeed rose, but from the southern horizon, dark plumes curling skyward. Alarm horns blared. Ariana shoved feet into boots, tossed on a cloak, and raced into the corridor. Guards hurried past. One recognized her and slowed. Southern Ridge Village under rogue attack. Alpha left with first patrol. Her stomach plummeted. How many injured returned? 2 so far, more coming. He resumed running. Ariana sprinted to the infirmary. Myra was already directing chaos. Bloodied warriors on cots, Leona tearing bandages, a young messenger shaking as he repeated the same phrase. Rogues everywhere. Help me with this gash, Myra barked. Ariana dove in, stitching flesh while Selene lent calm steadiness to her hands. Warrior after warrior arrived, burns, slashes, one with a dislocated shoulder. Ariana popped it back while he bit down on leather. His howl echoed down corridors. A lull hit. Silence too tense. Ariana wiped sweat, glanced at Mara. The healer's face was drawn. We're treating them blind. We need field medics, but Alpha ordered you stay put. Ariana's heart hammered. She pictured children huddled in burning huts, mothers shielding pups. She pictured Dominic fighting amidst smoke, every heartbeat of his echoing through the bond. I can't stay, she told Selene. Then go, the wolf urged. Save them. Ariana grabbed a satchel of salves and needles. Mara's eyes widened. If you leave, he'll flay you. He can punish me after they're safe. Ariana pushed past a protesting guard, found a half-shift warrior harnessing a sled. Blood speckled his fur. I'm going. You drive. The warrior, a broad-shouldered female named Talia, hesitated, then growled assent. They leapt onto the sled, a pair of reindeer-sized wolves in front snarling impatience. Ariana steadied medical supplies. As they shot through the gates, icy wind whipped her cloak. In the distance, smoke coiled black ribbons against an iron sky. Selene braced her mind. Bond pain built with every yard closer to Dominic, but Ariana welcomed it, an anchor guiding her. The sled skidded into chaos, huts burned, flames crackling up timber walls. Warriors clashed with gray-furred rogues at the edge of the village. Snow hissed beneath ember drops. Ariana jumped off, yelling for wounded to be carried to a half-collapsed granary still clear of fire. She dug spare cloths into wounds, hissed instructions. Talia shifted fully, dragging squealing rogues from a fallen comrade. Ariana dodged collapsed beams. Smoke stung her eyes. She found a warrior pinned by a charred cart. She levered it up with a plank, muscles straining, then pulled him free. Selene urged her forward, instinct guiding each choice. A sound like thunder cracked overhead, Dominic's roar in full wolf form. He leapt from a burning roof, tackling 2 rogues midair. Snow exploded beneath their landing. Ariana stared, heart seizing. His midnight fur was streaked with soot, eyes molten gold. Varric smelled her, froze for half a beat, shock flashing. A rogue lunged behind Dominic. Ariana threw herself forward, intercepting its path. She swung a broken shovel handle, ramming the beast's shoulder. It snarled, claws slashing. Dominic whirled, tearing the rogue's throat in one brutal snap. Blood sprayed hot across the snow. He shifted mid-step, grabbing Ariana's elbow. I told you to stay at the keep, he snarled, voice raw from shifting. She jerked free. Your warriors needed me. They need discipline, not reckless saviors. Fire popped behind them, showering sparks. Ariana's lungs burned from smoke, but fury blazed hotter. You call this wreckage discipline? Dominic's nostrils flared. A scream sounded near the well. Ariana sprinted toward it, leaving him cursing. A pup lay trapped under a fallen beam, mother screaming. Ariana wedged her shoulder beneath the beam, straining. Dominic appeared beside her, muscles bunching. Together they lifted. The mother pulled the pup clear. Tears streaked her ash-smeared face as she thanked Ariana, not Dominic. A muscle twitched in Dominic's cheek. Ariana ignored him, turning to check the pup's breathing. He coughed but cried, alive. She pressed salve to a cut, soothing him. Dominic's gaze drilled into her the whole time. When the last rogue fell and flames were controlled, Dominic strode over. fury simmering under ash-spattered skin. He seized her wrist. "Enough heroics. You're leaving with me. Now." She yanked back. "I'm not done." He hauled her against his chest, voice a gravelly whisper. "You're done when I say." The bond pulsed, a heartbeat so violent it made her dizzy. Celine snarled inside her head, protective and aching. Ariana met Dominic's blazing eyes. Smoke blurred the world around them. Only his breath, her hammering pulse, and distant cries remained. "Then say I'm done," she challenged, voice shaking with rage and something far deeper. "Really say it." For a breath, everything paused. Dominic's grip tightened, then loosened. Rage flickered into confusion, into a raw vulnerability she'd never seen on him before. Varek's voice rolled through the bond, desperate. "She's ours." Dominic's lips parted, words on the brink, then shutters of fear slammed shut. He released her, grabbed her arm in a bruising hold, and dragged her toward the sled. Dominic's stride shook the sled's wooden platform as he tossed Ariana onto the plank seat. She braced herself, glaring at him, while he shifted to his wolf form in a single ripple of muscle and fur. Varek's huge frame leapt ahead of the team, snapping at their harness lines until the leads lunged forward. Snow sprayed beneath pounding paws, the sled jerking free of blood-stained drifts and burned timbers. Ariana grabbed the side rail to steady herself, heart hammering with anger, fear, and a strange rush of pride at what she'd just done. Smoke blurred the edges of the village behind them. As the sled cut through fresh powder, icy wind slapped her cheeks, cooling feverish skin. She could still taste ash, still hear the screaming pup, but she also heard her own voice echoing inside. "You acted. You saved lives. You belong here." Celine's presence coiled around that thought, warm with approval. You faced danger, and he saw it. He saw only disobedience, Ariana argued silently, but a shard of hope refused to melt. Varek slowed at the fortress gate, allowing Talia's wolves to trot the sled through. Guards flung the portcullis higher, confusion flashing as they registered Ariana standing, rather than lying wounded. Dominic shifted back beside the sled in a spray of snow and landed in human form, breathing hard, jaw clenched. Steam curled from his skin where sweat met frigid air. "Inside," he snapped. Torches crackled, reflecting in his gray eyes, now nearly silver with restraint. Ariana leapt to the ground. "The wounded first, I need supplies." "You need to learn orders." He grasped her elbow. She shook him off. "You have 10 warriors coming in behind us. If infection sets, you'll lose them." Torin jogged up, snow in his beard. He opened his mouth to speak, then paused, glancing between them. "Alpha wounded arriving on sled 2. Mara just sent runners. We need her ready." Dominic's glare flicked to Torin. For one heartbeat, Ariana wondered if he'd lash out, but he exhaled through his nose and jerked his head toward the infirmary. "Move, but after we talk." She ran, cloak flaring. Inside, Myra directed controlled chaos. Cots lined the walls, fires roaring, healers stripping charred clothes from groaning warriors. Ariana swept to the first cot, recognizing Callan, a young soldier whose twin daughter still toddled. His thigh dripped blood through a torn bandage. "Need the silver weed tincture," Ariana called, pressing clean cloth to the wound. A junior healer handed her a flask. Ariana poured amber liquid, the scent of citrus filling the air. Callan hissed, but color returned to his cheeks. Across the room, Dominic stood against the doorframe, arms crossed, soot-darkened hair falling into his eyes. He tracked every move she made. Each time her fingers skimmed a patient's skin, something in his shoulders tightened as if he felt the touch through the bond. Ariana bandaged Callan, then crossed to a cot holding a warrior with shallow chest cuts. She stitched, murmuring soft encouragement. Heat from the fires flushed her cheeks. Sweat mingled with dried ash on her forehead. But she worked until the last wounded man sighed in relieved slumber. When Myra announced "stable all of them," Ariana rocked back on her heels, exhaustion cascading through her limbs. She turned and found Dominic already at her elbow. "It's time," he said. Mara lifted a brow but returned to her ledger. Ariana peeled off bloody gloves and followed Dominic into the hall. Heat plunged to Winter's bite. He walked without speaking until they entered a disused council chamber, door slamming shut behind them. The room smelled of damp stone and old parchment, shadows clinging to corners. Only a single sconce burned, throwing flickering light across Dominic's tense profile. "Why do you keep risking your life?" he demanded. "I told you to stay in the fortress." She faced him, chin lifted. "And watch pups burn? Watch your pack bleed?" "They're not your pack," he snarled. "You forget your place." "My place is beside people in pain," she shot back. "If you can't see that, you're the one lost." Varric growled inside his chest, audible enough that candle flame tremored. Dominic's pupils dilated. "You think playing healer makes you Luna?" "I don't need a title," Ariana said, voice shaking. "Respect is earned." "Respect?" He stalked closer until their breath mingled. "You endangered yourself. Do you know what that did to me?" He cut himself off, realization flashing. Ariana's heartbeat drummed, each thud echoing the bond's pulse between them. Celine pushed forward, flooding Ariana with courage. "Say it," Ariana whispered. "What did it do to you?" Dominic's lips parted. Every wall in his gaze shook, guilt and fear colliding with longing. "It hurt," he admitted, barely audible. "Like claws under my skin." He looked away as if ashamed. "Because the bond matters," she insisted. "Because I matter." A muscle jumped in his jaw. "You matter to them," he said. "You're healing what I spent years sharpening. I don't know what that makes me." "It makes you someone who can protect and still feel," she countered, voice gentle now. "Let the pack see both." He laughed, bitter. "Feelings killed my father. Betrayal killed him." Ariana corrected, stepping closer. "Love was collateral." Silence settled. Snow hissed against narrow windows, wind-rattling panes. Dominic's shoulders sagged, as though centuries rested on them. He met her eyes again, raw. "And you? What killed your hope tonight?" She swallowed, suddenly trembling. "Your words yesterday carved deeper than any claw." Her voice wavered, but held. "But hope's only dead if I stop trying." Dominic's hand lifted, hesitant, hovering near her cheek. The bond crackled. Celine's breath fluttered inside Ariana. "Let him." Varric rumbled from Dominic's side. "Touch her." His fingertips brushed soot from her skin. Feather-light, reverent. Ariana's eyes fluttered shut. A soft wheeze escaped Dominic, almost a gasp of relief. He cupped her cheek fully now, calloused thumb stroking high bone. Warmth spread through Ariana like sunrise. "I don't deserve this," he murmured. "That's for me to decide," she answered. She turned her face, pressing a kiss to his palm. Dominic's eyelids closed, lashes trembling. He leaned in. Their lips hovered a whisper apart. Shared breath, shared thunder of hearts. The mate bond surged, molten, demanding. Celine howled, Varric answered. Ariana tipped up, ready to bridge the inch. Suddenly he jerked back, stepping away so abruptly cold air flooded between them. His hand fell, fingers flexing like they'd been burned. "Not yet," he rasped. "I can't." The word slashed through Ariana deeper than any earlier cruelty. She forced a nod, though tears blurred her vision. "Then go," she whispered. Dominic looked stricken, but he turned, stride stiff. The door slammed behind him, echoing emptiness through the hall. Ariana pressed both hands over her chest, sinking to her knees. The bond throbbed, aching from the severed closeness like a heartbeat in wrong rhythm. Celine whimpered. The door creaked open again. Leona slipped inside, eyes wide. I heard shouting. Ariana stood slowly, wiping tears. "I'm all right." She was anything but, yet pride straightened her spine. Help me fetch more blankets to the infirmary. The wounded will chill when fever drops. Leona nodded, though worry pinched her brow. They gathered thick wool and returned to Mayra, who accepted Ariana's silence with a knowing look. Work filled the hours until dawn stained windows a faint lavender. When Ariana finally trudged toward her rooms, exhaustion dragged each step. Guards at her door saluted, then looked away quickly. Whispers had traveled. Luna defied Alpha. Luna saved warriors. She managed a tight smile, then entered her chamber. She undressed mechanically, let her cloak fall in a heap, and slipped beneath blankets that still smelled faintly of lavender and firewood. Moonlight peeked through sheer curtains. Ariana closed her eyes, expecting the bond's agony to keep her awake, but fatigue drowned thought. She drifted into dreams of snow-choked forests and warm hands she couldn't grasp. Across the fortress, Dominic paced his chambers like a beast ramming a cage. Varric snarled every few minutes, the wolf's frustration beating at Dominic's skull. He replayed Ariana's shaking breath, the moment their lips nearly touched. Fear and need tangled until he couldn't breathe. "You'll lose her," Varric warned. The wolf's voice was ragged with pain. "I'll lose myself if I break," Dominic shot back, though conviction frayed. He opened the window, inhaling night air heavy with pine and char. Snowflakes drifted, ghostly in moonlight. Somewhere below, Ariana's scent threaded faintly. Jasmine after rain, ash, iron from battle. He pressed his forehead to icy glass until skin numbed, until Varric quieted, until the horizon glowed gray. Morning found Ariana awake before sunrise again, nerves raw but fueled by stubborn resolve. She dressed in a simple wool tunic, knowing chores waited. The courtyard shimmered fresh with snow, an innocent lie after last night's carnage. She headed to the greenhouse. Frost had crept across glass panes. She cleared crystals with gloved hands, letting dawn light warm tender leaves inside. Pasco bounded in, wolf puptail wagging. "Mama said you saved Da last night." Ariana crouched, ruffling his fluffy hair. "Your Da's strong. He'll heal fast." The pup's eyes gleamed admiration. "You're brave." The compliment landed like balm. She smiled. "So are you. Brave pups grow brave wolves." He grinned, then scampered away. Footsteps crunched behind her. Ariana rose, turning to Gamma Lisa, who held a steaming mug. "Lavender tea," Lisa said. "Mayra's orders for those who refuse rest." She handed it over. "Reports from the border say casualties were half what they expected. Some credit your field triage." Ariana sipped. Warmth filled her chest. "We saved who we could." Lisa observed her. "Dominic's unaware how much the pack now trusts you. Some view you as a bridge between fear and hope." Ariana's grip tightened on the mug. "Bridges can burn. Or become roads," Lisa countered. "Change comes whether an alpha wants it or not." Before Ariana could answer, Torrin strode in, face drawn. "Alpha calls council noon. He wants Ariana present." Ariana blinked. "Me?" Torrin nodded. "He says it concerns border strategy and healer deployment." His jaw flexed. "And perhaps other matters." Her stomach clenched. Lisa met her gaze. "Then stand tall. You've earned your place." Hours later, Ariana sat at Dominic's council table for the first time. War maps pinned by daggers, scrolls unfurled. Smoke from a brazier coiled overhead. Elders debated rogue patterns. Dominic sat silent at the head, bandaged forearms resting on the table's edge, gaze distant. When Mayra proposed Ariana's mobile triage units for border skirmishes, resistance rose from an elder who argued a Luna shouldn't see the front lines. Lisa countered, praising last night's results. Dominic's eyes flicked to Ariana. Heat crawled up her neck, but she held his gaze, unblinking. After a tense silence, he nodded once. "So be it," he said. "Ariana commands field medics." Gasps. Ariana's throat tightened. Discussion moved to supply lines. Torin requested Ariana's injury pattern analysis to adjust armor plating. Elders concurred. The meeting ended with new patrol routes and a storm of murmured speculation. As others filed out, Dominic lingered. Ariana stood, heart thudding. He approached, maintaining careful distance. "Thank you," he said quietly, voice rough. "For last night. For today?" "I'm not your enemy," she replied. His lips curved faintly, painful, tentative. "I know." The air vibrated, bond tugging. Ariana waited, but Dominic only nodded once more before turning away. He left with shoulders less rigid, yet the space between them still echoed with things unsaid. Ariana exhaled, feeling new weight settle over her. Field medic command, pack whispers, Dominic's guarded gratitude. She touched the silver ring on her wrist, a remnant of Moonclaw days, and murmured to Celine, "One step closer, maybe?" Celine wagged an invisible tail. Closer is still distance, but distance can shrink. A thin hush settled over the keep as midday bled into afternoon, a curious calm after the morning's tension-heavy council. Ariana left the war chamber and made straight for the infirmary, where Maera already waited with 2 junior healers and a nervous stablehand named Jarek, the latter clutching a quill and a fresh ledger. "Gamma Lisa said you'd need names," Maera announced, pushing a stack of blank cloths into Ariana's arms. "We're forming field medic teams." Ariana smiled at the stablehand. "Jarek, you'll record volunteers, supply lists, and injuries in the field. Can you write quickly under pressure?" Jarek gulped. I practice the trade ledgers every dawn." "Good. You'll do fine." They hauled tables aside to spread a fur-lined map of Bloodfang territory. Ariana marked waypoints for triage tents, factoring wind direction, slope, and escape routes. She assigned Maera to main fortress triage, while she herself would lead the mobile unit with Talia, Jarek, and 2 junior healers. Each team member signed the ledger, some hands shaking with excitement, others with nerves. Word spread faster than torchlight. By the time Ariana crossed the ward again, 3 additional warriors had offered to learn basic stitching, insisting they'd rather save comrades than count kills. She taught them the neat, small stitches her mother had once used on hunting dogs, guiding calloused fingers with patient calm. Each time the needle bit through flesh-colored practice cloth, respect shone deeper in their eyes. In the courtyard, afternoon training carried a different energy. Warriors sharpened reflexes but spoke quietly among themselves, throwing Ariana glances that carried cautious admiration. She gripped her satchel of medical scrolls, ready to report to Lysa when Torin intercepted her. "Alpha wants to review the new warm-up sequences with you," the beta said. Sweat slicked his brow. He'd been drilling footwork patterns alone. "He's on the east sparring green." Ariana followed him through snow-dusted archways until they reached a ring of packed earth. Dominic stood shirtless again, though this time his posture held less fury, more focused intent. He pivoted through a series of half-shift strikes, each movement clipped clean. 2 wooden dummies lay shattered nearby. Torin cleared his throat. Dominic turned, expression unreadable at sight of both of them. "Show me your stride timing," the Alpha said to Torin, voice hoarse from exertion. Torin launched into the new pattern Ariana had drafted, knee alignments, pivot points to minimize strain. Dominic studied, occasionally correcting with a nudge or a grunt. Ariana noticed he no longer hammered Torin's missteps with insults. Instead, he asked her to explain the torque-saving angle she'd diagrammed. "The ligament here tears when the knee rotates too far inward," she said, kneeling to trace lines in snow around Torin's foot. "If he shifts weight half a beat earlier, muscle and tendon share the force." Dominic crouched beside her, the heat of his body seeping through cold air. For once, he didn't shorten the distance. "Like this?" He adjusted Torin's stance himself, fingers brushing Ariana's as he steadied the beta's calf. Lightning zipped through her arm at the contact. Dominic's breath hitched, the smallest sound, but powerful as a roar. Celine pressed against Ariana's mind, tail wagging in cautious hope. Varric hummed, pleased inside Dominic. He didn't jerk away, only let their fingers linger a blink longer before releasing. Torin shot them a look bordering on relief, then resumed drills with new precision. Later, as Torin departed, Ariana remained to collect scattered training poles. Dominic took 2 for her, carrying them to the equipment rack. Snow fell in lazy spirals, painting his dark hair with silver flecks. She watched one melt against his temple. Impulse urged her to wipe it away, but caution kept her hands busy. He turned, poles clanking into place. "The pack learns faster with your guidance," he said softly, almost grudgingly. "Because I know how bodies break," Ariana answered, shoulders relaxing. "You know how to wield them. Together we might keep more of your warriors alive." A shadow passed through his eyes, acknowledgement of shared purpose. "Together," he echoed, weight heavy on the word. They walked back toward the fortress. Snow-muffled footfalls lending the twilight hush an intimate cloak. At the greenhouse junction, Dominic halted. "I need to check border reports," he said, voice lower. "You get rest. Dawn may bring trouble." "Trouble always finds us," she replied with a small smile. He hesitated. "Stay safe." Then he strode away, footsteps crunching until swallowed by stone. Selene exhaled in Ariana's mind, both wistful and proud. He asked, not ordered, that we rest. Progress, Ariana thought, though fatigue suddenly pulled at her bones. She pushed through greenhouse doors to gather herbs for night tonics, but warmth of braziers lulled her into a seat by the potting table. Steam from damp soil curled around her and eyelids drifted shut. She woke to Myra's cane tapping the flagstones. "I might find you in every corner of this fortress, child." "I'm fine," Ariana murmured, standing to stretch. Myra brushed a gray braid from her face. "Soup's waiting in the mess. Eat before you keel over." Ariana obeyed, grateful for hot broth and crusty bread. Guards in the mess hall nodded greetings. One slipped her an apple for later. She returned to her chamber, changed into a wool nightdress, and crawled under quilts. The bed never felt more deserved. Selene curled against her thoughts. Sleep took them quickly. A low growl snapped her awake near midnight. Moonlight slanted through curtains onto Dominic standing inside her room, shoulders dusted with snow, shirt half untucked as though he'd run here. Heart beating fast, Ariana sat up. "Dominic?" He closed the door softly. "Border Scout intercepted a messenger," he said, voice rough. "Rogue clans plan a larger raid 2 nights from now." Adrenaline replaced drowsiness. "How many?" "Too many." He ran a hand through tangled hair. "Torin and Lysa draft defenses. I needed to warn you." She rose, pulling a cloak around her shoulders. "My medics will prepare." Dominic stared at her, tension rippling under skin. Candlelight revealed new scrapes on his knuckles. He'd likely punched stone again. A wave of pain and longing rolled over the bond, radiating from him. He stepped closer, breath uneven. "I can't keep losing wolves," he whispered. Ariana's throat tightened. She brushed fingertips along his bruised knuckles. "Then let us save them together." His eyes closed at her touch, shoulders shuddering. Varric pressed inside him, pleading. He lifted his hand, cradled her jaw. Warmth pooled beneath her skin, pulse skittering. Selene whined softly, wanting. Their lips met. Finally, gently, tremulous. Heat washed through Ariana, bond flaring bright. Dominic's hand slid to the back of her neck, drawing her closer. Her fingers splayed across his chest, feeling frantic heartbeats. The kiss deepened, breaths mingling, wolves sighing with relief. Then Dominic froze. A tremor traveled through his body like a crack in ice. He pulled back, eyes wide with terror. "If I love you, they'll find a way to use it," he choked, "like they used my father." Ariana's own fear fluttered. She rested her palm over his racing heart. "I'm not your father's fate." He stepped away, shaking his head. "I can't mark you. Not yet." Voice ragged with desperation, he added, "But I can't let you go either." Tears pricked her eyes. Then stand with me, fear is only a chain if we lock it. Dominic gazed at her, conflict carving deep lines. Finally he reached down, took her hand, and pressed a soft kiss to her knuckles, humble, almost reverent. 2 nights, he whispered. Stay alive for me. Fight beside me, she countered. He nodded once, released her hand, and left as quietly as he'd come. Ariana sank onto the bed, heart soaring and aching in equal measure. Celine spun circles of dazed joy. We kissed, the wolf sang. We did, Ariana whispered back, wiping a tear that felt both victory and ache, but still unmarked. Morning dawned steel gray. Ariana assembled her field team in the south courtyard. Talia strode up in full wolf form, harnessing travel sleds with medical crates. Jarek scribbled inventory, brow furrowed in concentration. Maera tightened straps on salve satchels, grumbling but proud. Gamma Lisa checked blade lines along the walls, then nodded approval at Ariana. Your team moves out an hour before first patrol. Get eyes on vantage ridges. Torin and I handle flank positions. Dominic emerged from the keep's main doors, armored in dark leather, fur cloak sweeping behind. He surveyed preparations, then locked eyes with Ariana. No rumor or tension lingered, only shared resolve. He crossed to her, the pack parting like river water around rock. He handed her a sturdy dagger. Silver nickel alloy, not lethal to wolves, but deep enough to make a rogue think twice. Ariana accepted, sliding it into her boot. Thank you. Torin called final commands. Warriors howled, wolves shifting in a symphony of snapping bones and rippling fur. Dominic's gaze held Ariana's a heartbeat longer. Then he shifted, Varek's colossal wolf rising, muscles rippling beneath black coat. He inclined his massive head before charging out the gate with the vanguard. Dusting snow swirled in his wake. Ariana climbed onto the sled beside Talia's second driver. Let's move. The team shot down the slope, wind tearing at cloaks, hearts hammering in synchronized rhythm. The forest thrummed with tension, ready to snap. Ariana pressed one hand to her chest, felt the bond hum, not painful this time, but fierce and steadier than ever. Celine whispered he didn't run from the kiss. No, Ariana thought, jaw set as trees blurred past. And next time, neither will I. The sled veered south, carrying them toward the coming storm, the fragile truce between fear and hope, and the inevitable moment when either love or ruin would finally break them both. The sky held its breath just before dawn, a flat band of colorless light hugging the jagged peaks while snow dust drifted in lazy, deceptive spirals. Ariana knelt in the lee of a rocky outcrop on the southern ridge, gloved fingers busy tying off a bandage around a warrior's forearm. Breath steamed from his muzzle as he hovered in half-shift, and he winced only when she tightened the cloth. You'll keep the arm, she assured, voice hushed, but steady. Thank the moon for that, he muttered, flexing clawed fingers. I need both to gut rogues. She gave him a firm nod, then turned toward Talia, who was directing 2 young healers arranging supply satchels on a sled runner. One glance at the sky told Ariana the fragile quiet wouldn't last. A tension threaded the air, humming against her skin the way storm clouds did before lightning cracked. Celine stirred deep in her mind. Wind feels wrong. Ariana straightened, eyes scanning tree lines where shadows pooled between trunks. Recheck the perimeter, she called to a scout lingering nearby. He moved off at a lope, ears flicking. Behind her, Jarek scribbled notes in the ledger, trying to keep his quill from shaking. More frostfern poultices packed, Luna, he said, cheeks flushed with cold and pride. The title still startled Ariana, but she managed a quick smile. Good work. Snow crunched as Gamma Lysa approached from the north trail. Frontline patrols report movement, she said without preamble. Likely a test wave before dawn strike. Ariana's pulse kicked. We're ready. Lisa's sharp gaze flicked to the satchels, then to Ariana's steady posture. Approval softened her expression. Remember, pull back if they breach the ridge. Dominic wants you alive. Words she did not need reminding of, yet they warmed her chest. She gave a curt nod. Lisa vanished uphill to join Torin. Minutes crawled. The first hint of coral cut the horizon when Celine's hackles shot up inside Ariana's skin. At the same moment, a howl shattered the thin silence. Warning, not victory. Tree branches snapped in the distance. Dark shapes burst through the timber. Gray-furred rogues streaking down the slope in snarling waves. "Positions," Ariana barked. Her team flew into action, healers grabbing lances tipped not for battle but to fend off bodies from dragging away wounded. Talia shifted fully, massive white wolf bristling as she hauled the supply sled behind a defensive rock ring. Ariana grabbed her satchel, heart hammering. The first clash rang out upridge, Dominic's vanguard meeting the rogues in a crash of snarls and bone, but 4 rogues veered toward the triage site, drawn by the scent of blood. Ariana shoved Jarek behind a fallen spruce and pulled her dagger. "Hold," she warned the junior healers. Celine's voice sharpened. Danger left flank. A teenage warrior named Silas sprang between Ariana and the rogues, barely armed. One rogue leapt, jaws gaping. Instinct surged. Ariana lunged, shoulder slamming Silas aside as she raised the dagger. A flash of fang. She drove the blade into rib muscle, but claws raked her own shoulder. Fire seared her flesh. She staggered, vision tunneling, but kept the blade twisting until the rogue shrieked and tore free, limping. Silas scrambled upright, eyes wide with horror. "You're bleeding." Rogue frenzy drowned the ridge now. Howls, screams, the choking tang of iron-rich snow. Ariana pressed a palm to her wound. Hot blood seeped between fingers. Dizzy, she scanned for the next threat. Far above, a midnight wolf ripped through the front line. Dominic in full fury, Varric's roar echoing down the slope. He ripped one rogue from a bloodfang warrior, flung the body into a tree, then froze. His head snapped toward Ariana's position. Through the bond she felt it, the jolt of her pain lancing into him. Varric howled, a sound of pure panic. Dominic's enormous form shrank mid-stride, fur drifting away as he shifted to human in a blur of movement. "Ariana!" he shouted, voice ragged. A rogue slammed into his chest before he finished shifting. He drove an elbow into its throat, broke its spine, and sprinted downhill. Snow dragon tailed behind him as he leapt boulders, boots sliding on ice. Ariana's knees buckled, but Silas propped her up. Her vision flickered until Dominic barreled into view, ash-spattered and wide-eyed. She opened her mouth to reassure him, but blood loss stole the words. He caught her before she hit the ground. Heat soaked through his arms. His breath came in ragged bursts. "Stay with me," he rasped, voice cracking. Ariana managed a faint smile. "You always find me." Fear shuttered his expression. He looked to Jarek. "Stabilize the line," he ordered, voice suddenly iron. "Torin will reinforce." Jarek nodded, frozen in awe, then darted to follow. Dominic pressed his palm to Ariana's wound. Blood oozed between their fingers. Rage quivered through his muscles. Inside, Varric snarled. "She's ours. Don't let her go." "I won't," Dominic swore, chest seizing with terror he couldn't hide. He lifted her, cradling her against his chest, and ran. Every jarring step sent spikes of pain through Ariana, but she curled her fingers into his torn cloak, trusting his strength. Celine's presence was shaky yet fierce. "We live," she growled. Dominic tore down the slope, snow blurring past. Warriors parted at his roar, covering their retreat. At the main ridge pass, he shifted halfway, claws sprouting for traction, then back to human, never slowing. The fortress walls loomed. Gate guards flung the portcullis wide at the sight of their alpha streaked with her blood. Inside the courtyard, Mayra sprinted from the infirmary entrance, apron already crimson from earlier casualties. "Bring her, quickly!" Dominic laid Ariana on the nearest cot. Mayra's practiced hands stripped the torn cloak and sliced away fabric around the wound. Leona darted in with boiling water and clean linens. Dominic hovered, face like carved granite, eyes raw. "It's clean," Mayra said after swiping the cut. deep but no bone. Hold her still. Dominic pressed his palms to Ariana's good shoulder and hip, silent except for the ragged edge of his breathing. Mara poured willow liquor over the gash. Ariana hissed, fingers digging into Dominic's wrist. His own eyes squeezed shut, as if sharing every stab of pain. Selene whimpered. Dominic bowed his head. The room blurred around Ariana, flickering torchlight, Mara's calm muttering, Leona's steady hands passing salves. Through it all, the bond thrummed hot, Dominic's worry pounding into her chest like a second heart. Mara stitched swiftly. She'll scar, she murmured, knotting the last suture. But she'll live if she rests. The word rests floated, almost comical after battle chaos. Dominic exhaled a shuddering breath, relief loosening tense muscles. When Mara stepped back, he gently brushed sweat-damp hair from Ariana's brow. I'm here, he whispered. She opened heavy eyes. Not chasing me away this time? His throat bobbed. Never again. He glanced at Myra. Leave us, he said, voice gentler than command but allowing no argument. Myra hesitated, then nodded to Leona. They exited, closing the oak door softly. Silence settled, broken only by Ariana's shallow breathing and distant clamor of the ongoing fight beyond the walls. Dominic sank onto the stool beside her. Hands that had ripped throats minutes ago now trembled as they tucked the blanket higher. He stared at the blood under his nails. I thought I'd lose you, he said, voice hoarse. I was afraid too, Ariana admitted, ribs aching with each breath. But fear isn't weakness anymore. It's proof we have something worth keeping. Dominic's eyes met hers, storm gray, swirling with guilt. I pushed you away because love killed my father, because our enemies used his heart against him. And it almost destroyed you, she whispered. But you're not him. You choose what defines you now. He swallowed hard. I don't deserve the chance. You do, she insisted, reaching to lace trembling fingers with his. You saved me. You saved them all. That's the alpha they need. Varric rumbled approval, brushing Dominic's consciousness with warmth. Selene sighed in soft empathy. The wolves knew before the humans did. The last wall was gone. Dominic stood, pulse hammering, and lifted her hand to his cheek. Tell me you still want this. Even your scars know my name, she answered, tears shining. The words cracked whatever restraint remained. Dominic leaned down and kissed her, slow, reverent, but fierce with pent-up longing. The bond surged, hot and breathtaking. Ariana's pain faded beneath a tide of heat as Selene howled in jubilation. Varric answered, his echo rolling through Dominic like thunder. When he drew back, both were shaking. Ariana's cheeks flushed despite pallor. Dominic cupped her face, thumb tracing her lower lip. They'll need me at the wall soon, he murmured. But I won't leave until you sleep. Then lie with me, she whispered. He eased onto the cot, careful of her shoulder, gathering her against his chest. Snowlight filtered through the high window, painting silver over tangled limbs. She listened to his heartbeat, steady now, anchoring her to the quiet after the storm. Their wolves curled together inside the shared mind space, noses touching, tails draped. In the corridor, faint cheers rose, one last rogue pack fleeing back to the dark. Dominic pressed his lips to Ariana's hair, voice no louder than breath. You were never a prisoner. I was. And now? She asked, drowsy. Now I'm free because of you. Ariana smiled, drifting toward sleep. Selene's steady hum lulled her. Through half-lidded eyes, she saw Dominic watching her with the tenderness she'd once believed he couldn't feel. The world narrowed to the warmth of his arms, the quiet between heartbeats, and the promise waiting in that silence. Dominic woke to muffled trumpet calls from the lower courtyard and the fading hush of night. Ariana's head rested on his chest, dark hair spilling over linen bandages that covered her stitched shoulder. Even in sleep, she clutched his shirt, fingers curled like a small promise. The slow glide of her breath brought a calm he'd never known. For a handful of heartbeats he lay motionless, absorbing the miracle that she still lived, that her scent, wildflower and frost, was woven around him like a pledge. In the shared mind space, Selene rose, stretching with a satisfied yawn. Varric lay coiled beside her, massive head on paws, golden eyes half-lidded. The wolves exchanged a tranquil huff, an unspoken agreement that the worst danger had passed. Outside, a sentinel's voice drifted up. Scouts report rogues in full retreat. No new waves. Dominic exhaled, tension easing. He pressed a feather-light kiss to Ariana's hair. She stirred and opened her eyes, blinking up at him. When she tried to sit, he tightened his hold. "You need rest," he murmured. "I need to be sure everyone else is safe," she countered, voice scratchy but determined. He studied the stubborn set of her mouth, still pale, yet fierce. "Torin and Lysa have it. You focus on healing." A faint smile tugged her lips. "Bossy alpha." His throat softened. "I learned from the best. You bossed me first?" She hummed a laugh, then winced, hand hovering over the stitched wound. Dominic helped her adjust against the pillow. Mara chose that moment to push through the door, Leona behind her carrying a tray. "Well, good," Mara said, eyeing them. "You're both awake. Eat." She set down broth and oatcakes. "After that, you—" She aimed her cane at Dominic. "Go wash and breathe fresh air. You reek of smoke and fear." "Fear?" Ariana teased while Dominic flushed. Maera harumphed. The entire keep could smell his panic when he barreled in. "I was not panicked," Dominic muttered. Leona giggled. Ariana smiled, heart swelling. She drank broth, warmth spreading through chilled limbs. Dominic devoured 2 oatcakes before Maera forced him out to change. Leona fetched heated water, helping Ariana bathe carefully. When Dominic returned in a clean tunic and trousers, Maera dismissed herself to check on other patients. Leona caught Ariana's gaze before leaving. "The pack is telling stories already," she whispered. "How their alpha crossed the ridge in human form, roaring her name against the wind. How Luna bled to protect them." Her eyes shone. "They'll never doubt you now." Ariana's cheeks warmed. Dominic listened in silence, shoulders easing with a pride he didn't try to hide. Hours slipped by. Snow squalls brushed the window panes. Dominic updated reports while seated by the bed, speaking quietly with scouts who tiptoed in. Each time he glanced Ariana's way, relief and wonder mingled in his eyes as though he still checked reality hadn't dissolved. Afternoon light leaked pale gold. Torin arrived bearing fresh leathers and news. "Border secure," he said, voice hoarse with exhaustion. 5 wounded, no dead beyond earlier numbers. Dominic rose. "You and Lysa oversee regrouping. I won't be far." Torin's gaze flicked to Ariana and back. Respect shone there. "Understood, Alpha." He stepped close, lowering his voice. "The pack's ready for, next steps." Dominic stiffened, then nodded. "Soon." He clasped Torin's forearm before the beta left. Ariana's curiosity caught the exchange. "Next steps?" Dominic sank onto the stool again. "Formal announcement of you as Luna once you're strong enough." Her heart skipped. "They'll accept a moonclaw?" "They already do." His voice held quiet conviction. "They saw you spill blood for them. Actions speak louder than lineage." Selene preened at the praise. Ariana lifted Dominic's hand where it rested on the bed rail and kissed his knuckles. "Then we step into that future together." Evening approached, bringing a hush broken only by distant hammering as smiths repaired weapons. Dominic lit a single candle, warm glow softening stone walls. Ariana traced the flicker with sleepy eyes. "We should move you to your chambers," Dominic said. "I'm comfortable here," she whispered, then more serious. "Stay." He hesitated, fear flickering across features, then nodded. "Always." Leona returned to help Ariana change into a fresh linen shift. Dominic paced the hall to give privacy, though the bond kept them stitched close. When he re-entered, Ariana reclined against crisp pillows, hair brushed loose over her shoulders. Moonlight spilled through the window, silvering the line of her throat. Dominic's breath caught. She noticed and flushed, but held his gaze. "You're staring." "Can't help it," he answered, voice low. Inside, Varric rumble-purred. Seleni's ears perked, tail flicking shyly. The wolf's anticipation simmered under Dominic's skin. He dragged a chair closer, heartbeat thundering like war drums. Ariana sat taller, wincing at her shoulder but determined. "Come here," she said, extending her uninjured arm. Dominic moved to sit on the edge of the bed. Her hand cupped his cheek. He leaned into the warmth. Words perched on his tongue, truths buried too long. But emotion clogged his throat. She sensed it, brushing her thumb along his stubble. "What do you fear now?" she asked. "That I don't know how to be soft," he admitted. She smiled sadly. "You're soft every time you look at me like this." He shut his eyes. "Show me." Ariana tugged him down gently. Their lips met, tentative at first, then deepening, as though they'd kissed for lifetimes. Varric howled inside Dominic, low and resonant. Selene answered, pressing joy through Ariana's veins. Dominic broke away to kiss her forehead, cheeks, the tender corner where tears had dried. Pain twinged when Ariana shifted, but she ignored it, pulling Dominic to lie beside her. His arms bracketed her without touching the injury. She traced the healed bite scar on his shoulder, marveling how vulnerability felt safe here. He swallowed. "I want to mark you, but not while you hurt." She shook her head. "The bond itself will heal me faster than any salve." He met her eyes, searching. "I'll be gentle." "I trust you." She brushed hair from his brow. "Always." Their wolves pressed close in the mind space, excitement vibrating through both. Dominic kissed her again, slow, coaxing. The bond crackled, warm lightning under skin, and Ariana moaned softly as power thrummed from spine to fingertips. Dominic's hand cupped the curve of her neck, thumb stroking rapid pulse. He slid lower, lips tracing down her throat, over the line of her collarbone. Between kisses he murmured, "Tell me if anything hurts." "Only if you stop," she whispered, voice already thick with need. Bedroom candles dwindled. Snow drifted outside, insulating them in hush. Dominic's hands trembled as he untied the linen shift's ribbon, easing fabric off her wounded shoulder, careful of stitches. He kissed the thin line of fresh scar, reverent, tears pricking behind his eyelids. She exhaled a shaky breath. "You wear even pain like armor," he said. "Then share the weight," she answered, sliding her hand beneath his tunic. He pulled the garment over his head, exposing planes of muscle speckled with healing claw marks. Ariana pressed her lips to each bruise, honoring survival. Heat spiraled between them, fed by matching heartbeats and the drum of their wolves' anticipation. Dominic's teeth lengthened as his wolf pushed near the surface. He clamped down, breathing ragged. Ariana tilted her head, revealing the soft space at the junction of neck and shoulder. "Mark me," she invited, voice trembling but sure. "Your pain, it's ours." Her fingers threaded his hair. "Let me carry yours too." Something inside him broke open, fear shattering like ice under spring thaw. He kissed the skin, inhaling her scent, then let fangs slide gently. Pressure, a sharp, quick sting, and then pleasure so fierce Ariana gasped. The bond blazed white-hot. Selene howled triumph and energy flooded Ariana's body, knitting torn flesh, igniting every nerve. Dominic tasted her blood on his tongue, a wild, sacred wine that filled empty spaces. He sealed the bite with a gentle lick, then drew back, eyes bright as moonlit steel. "My turn," she whispered. She shifted onto her elbow, bringing their faces level. He tilted his head, exposing the thick cord of his neck. She brushed her lips there, felt his pulse galloping beneath skin, and let her wolf guide. Tiny fangs descended, She bit softly, marking him with a mix of tenderness and claim. Varric shuddered in a growl of pure ecstasy. When she sealed the mark, Dominic's hands fisted in sheets. The bond settled, still blazing but steady now like a forge. Dominic cradled Ariana's face. "Mine," he breathed. "And you're mine," she echoed. He kissed her again, deeper. Clothes fell away, blankets rustled. Pain was swallowed by warmth, stitches tugging but bleeding no more. Their lovemaking was a slow storm, rolling thunder of heartbeats, lightning crack of pleasure, rain gentle and relentless. Words spilled between kisses. "I'm here. I won't run. You're safe." Wolves prowled inside, lending primal growls and soft chuffs. No walls remained. When climax hit, it was less explosion than sunrise, light flooding every cracked corner, banishing cold. Dominic trembled, tears sliding as release swept through. Ariana clung, joy mingling with relief so intense she sobbed quietly. Afterward, they lay entwined, skin damp, breath calming. Snow still sifted beyond the window, but dawn tinged clouds pink. Dominic brushed stray hairs from Ariana's face. "You heal me just by breathing," he murmured. She traced his new mark, crimson forming a perfect crescent. "We heal each other." In their minds, the wolves nestled, purring with contentment. Varric licked Seleni's muzzle. She nipped his ear in playful affection. The bond no longer pulsed with pain, only warmth. Dominic pressed lips to Ariana's forehead. "Sleep. When you wake, the world will be different." She sighed, drifting. "Different is good." He remained awake, heart light, watching her lashes flutter. When he was certain she slept deeply, he whispered into her hair, "You were never a prisoner." "I was." Outside, distant howls rose. Victory, thanksgiving, and welcome to the new Luna. Dominic closed his eyes, finally at peace, arms wrapped around the woman who had taught him that love, not solitude, was the stronger shield. Sun filtered through the narrow windows in a mellow gold, gentle as a lover's palm. Ariana stirred against warm skin and the steady thump of Dominic's heart. She blinked, expecting the dull throb of her injury, but instead found only a manageable ache, the kind left after a long training bout. She flexed experimentally. No sharp stab greeted her. The mate bond flowed like sunlight through clear water, its constant warmth knitting what human medicine could not. Selene stretched, content. Healing is easier when love wraps every torn fiber. A rustle beside her. Dominic propped himself on an elbow, dark hair mussed from sleep. "Pain?" A whisper. She answered, tracing the mark on his neck. It was a soft red crescent now, edges already sealing. He shivered under her fingertips, eyes half-lidded with peace she'd seldom seen. They lay in lazy silence until a timid knock sounded. Dominic pulled on trousers, ordering entry. Leona stepped in, balancing a tray laden with hot cider, rye bread, honey, and roasted venison strips. She flushed at their disheveled states but smiled brightly. "The pack's celebrating in the Great Hall," she said, "but Maera insisted you eat before showing your face." Dominic accepted the tray, thanked Leona, and closed the door. Ariana sat up, wrapping a blanket around her torso. He pushed a mug into her hands and held his own against her knee, inhaling steam. "They've been howling all morning," he said, "and word of the bond spreads faster than wildfire." She sipped. "Does that frighten you?" "Not anymore." He met her gaze. "Whatever comes, I'd rather face it with you than hide behind walls again." They shared breakfast, taking turns feeding each other honey-dipped bread, laughing when droplets dripped onto the blanket. An hour later, Maera arrived, inspected Ariana's stitches, already half-merged into new flesh, and pronounced her a miracle. She eyed Dominic's marked neck with satisfaction before pronouncing herself too busy to stay and bustled out. Lysa's summons followed. Council assembled in the Great Hall. Ariana dressed in a fresh tunic dyed deep forest green, embroidered with silver thread. Dominic donned black leathers, the alpha's cloak clasped at one shoulder. Before leaving, he cupped her cheek. Ready? With you, yes. They walked side by side through corridors buzzing with hushed excitement. Torches cast warm halos on stone. Warriors bowed or pressed fists to hearts. Pup Pasco darted forward, presenting Ariana with a single winter rose, pale petals flecked by frost. She knelt, thanked him, pressed a kiss to his curly head. The pup beamed and scampered away. The great hall's tall doors swung wide. Inside, elders, warriors, healers, and pups filled the benches. Torches lined the walls. Tall windows admitted shafts of cold light that caught dust motes swirling like sparks. Dominic led Ariana to the dais. Torin, Lisa, and Maera flanked them. A hush spread, thick with anticipation. Dominic's voice rang out strong but edged with emotion. Bloodfang, we are whole today because of the courage and sacrifice of many wolves. Among them stands the woman fate sent as a spoils of war. He reached for Ariana's hand, lacing fingers. No longer prisoner, no longer symbol. She is Luna, by right of heart, by right of bond, by right of blood spilled for this pack. A wave of howls rose, not forced but joyous, a rolling thunder that shook banners. Ariana's chest quivered. Dominic raised both their joined hands. Honor her as you honor me. Doubt her and you doubt me. Elder Kale stepped forward, white-streaked brows furrowed but eyes glinting respect. Speak, princess, he said. Let us hear your will. Ariana took one breath. Celine's confidence swelled. I was born Moonclaw, she began, voice carrying. I came here in chains of politics and pride, but chains break when wolves stand together. She glanced at Dominic. Your alpha is fierce, yet fiercer still is the heart he tried to hide. I will guard that heart as he guards all of you. She lifted the pup's rose. From this day, no pup will fear care. No warrior will bleed alone. We build a future where compassion sharpens fangs, not dulls them. Applause thundered, echoing from rafters. Torin smiled openly. Lysa's eyes shone. Mara dabbed at one eye with her sleeve, muttering about dust. Warriors filed by to kneel or bow. When the hall settled, Dominic guided Ariana to a circular stone basin of moonlit water, an ancient rite. Each dipped fingers, pressing a cool droplet to her forehead, murmuring oath of loyalty. After the last wolf stepped away, Ariana turned to Dominic. He dipped 2 fingers, touched her brow, then his own, sealing the pack's vow. The celebration spilled into courtyards. Fires blazed in braziers. Cooks roasted venison haunches. Pups chased each other, trailing strings of evergreen. Ariana joined healers distributing mulled cider. Dominic conferred with scouts but kept her in sight, smile flickering whenever she laughed. Near sundown, bells tolled for evening feast. Long tables stretched across the great hall floor now cleared of benches. Platters of herb-crusted meat, berry-glazed roots, and honey cakes crowded wooden boards. Dominic sat at Ariana's right, his hand resting on her knee beneath the table. Torin toasted the mated pair, and mugs clanged. Songs rose, war ballads blending into playful courting tunes. Warriors urged Dominic and Ariana to dance. She hesitated, shoulder still tender, but Dominic stood, offering a hand. If you tire, we stop, he promised. He led her to the cleared circle, pulling her gently into a slow whirl. The mating mark on her neck tingled where his fingers brushed. Around them, wolves clapped, some swaying with mates. During a spin, Ariana glimpsed Pasco, hoisted onto a table, howling in delight. Laughter rippled. Celine's voice hummed content. Pack's heartbeat as one. Hours later, silver moonlight bathed emptying tables. Dominic caught Ariana yawning and ushered her outside. Frost crisped the path. Stars diamonded a cloudless sky. They climbed the winding stairs to the high cliff, the same overlook where he once declared her a prize. Wind tugged hair and cloaks, but their bond knitted warmth between them. Dominic stood at the edge, snow crunching beneath boots. First night you saw this view, I called you leash. Regret roughened his tone. I thought hard edges saved me. Ariana slipped her hand into his. Edges cut the one who carries them. She lifted his palm to her lips, kissing knuckles scarred by years of violence. We dull each other's fears, sharpen each other's hope. He closed his eyes, breathed her in. Run with me. Yes. They undressed quickly, clothing folded onto a rock ledge. In the silver hush of moon, their bodies gleamed with fresh scars and marks newly healed. Dominic shifted first, bones flowing, fur bursting, paws sinking into snow. Varric stretched, tail high, massive mane ruffling in wind. Ariana followed. Selene's white-tipped gray coat shimmered. She bounded forward, shoulders brushing Varric's. He bumped her flank affectionately before both leapt off the cliff lip, landing in a spray of powder. They ran. Snow-laden pines blurred, the forest a cathedral of glittering frost columns, their breath plumed white, paws drumming a rhythm older than memory. Bond energy thrummed like molten silver beneath fur. Each stride synchronous, each turn wordless conversation. Varric veered left, Selene mirrored right, weaving between trunks, bodies sometimes touching, sometimes defying gravity in soaring leaps. Owls hooted overhead. Startled hares darted from underbrush. After miles, they climbed a basalt outcrop where snow melted in rivulets under moon's gaze. Shifting back, they settled on warmed stone, bodies chilled, but hearts glowing. Dominic pulled Ariana into his lap, cloak draped around both. The valley spread below, Bloodfang's stronghold a constellation of torches. Everything's different, he murmured. Different can be good, she echoed the words she'd spoken nursing him after battle. We'll build kinder walls. He brushed knuckles down her cheek, and fill them with pups who know both claws and compassion. His lips quirked. Pasco may volunteer as first babysitter. She laughed softly, then sobered. Think we can keep peace? We'll try, he said. Together we'll face what comes. Varric lounged in the mind space, watching Selene tuck herself under his chin. A heartbeat of silence passed. Comfortable. Full. Snowflakes drifted but melted on warm skin. Ariana traced the rising scar on her shoulder. It already fades. Dominic kissed the mark. Proof of what we protect. They remained until numbness threatened toes, talking quietly about greenhouse expansion, training reforms, and a festival to honor the fallen Moonclaw and Bloodfang alike. Plans, that was the miracle. They planned a future, not just survival. On return, they redressed and walked hand in hand through sleeping corridors. Outside Ariana's chamber, they paused. Dominic dragged thumb along her jaw. Rest, he whispered, though his eyes begged to stay. She tugged him close. The bed is bigger now that walls are gone. He smiled, surrendered. Inside, they sank onto quilts, limbs tangling, exhaustion sweet. As sleep claimed Ariana, she felt Dominic's fingers stroking her hair and faintly heard him murmur a prayer of gratitude to a silent moon. Morning dawned clear, sunlight gilding stone corridors. Ariana woke alone momentarily, but the pillow still held Dominic's warmth. She dressed leisurely, emerging to find Leona waiting with news. Pups requested her presence at the novice garden. Ariana followed, greeted by small hands offering seedlings, a blend of moonflower and blood-red sage, symbol of unity. She knelt, guiding them in planting under the thawing snow. Dominic arrived mid-lesson, Torin beside him. Warriors paused to greet their Alpha and Luna. Dominic's smile at Ariana was soft, unguarded. Torin cleared his throat, eyes twinkling. Scout line stable. No rogue sign within 5 leagues. Dominic extended a hand. Walk? Ariana wiped soil from palms and took it. They exited the courtyard, boots crunching on newly forming ice crystals that sparkled like crushed stars. At the open gates, guards saluted. Dominic squeezed her hand. No more cages, he said. Where do you wish to go? She raised brow playfully. Everywhere. One step at a time. He lifted her hand to his lips, then shifted smoothly to Wolf. Varric stood tall, tail sweeping. Ariana laughed, shifting too. Selene nudged Varric's shoulder. He nipped her ear. In tandem they trotted, then broke into a run. Past the outer wall, down the slope, toward forests now lit with morning amber. Behind them, Bloodfang's stronghold exhaled contentment. Chimneys smoked, hammers rang, pups laughed. Ahead, endless trees opened paths to unknown journeys. Wolves' paws pounded in perfect rhythm, hearts beating the same song. Snow showered from branches as they bounded under. Selene hopped a fallen log and glanced back, Dominic's black-furred form right behind. Their eyes met, and excitement rolled through the bond. Freedom tasted of pine and cold air, of lingering honey more potent than any feast. They ran until breath burned and muscles sang, then slowed near a half-frozen stream. Side by side, they drank cold water sparking with early sunlight. Varric nudged Selene's flank, an invitation home. She butted her head under his chin, consenting. They shifted, clothing manifesting in ripples courtesy of pack magic woven into leather. Standing ankle-deep in snowmelt, Dominic caught Ariana's waist. Ready to return, Luna? She tipped her head, eyes bright. Ready to lead? She brushed her lips against his. And ready to love. He grinned, and together they walked back through quiet forest, each step planting seeds of a new era, where hard edges served protection but hearts remained open, where wounds became stories and where a love born from war forged unbreakable peace. High above, distant mountain peaks reflected sunlight in blinding shards, as if sky itself offered its blessing. And somewhere across the valley, a lone wolf howled, not in mourning, not in fear, but in celebration of two souls finally free.